Good afternoon and welcome to Morphosis Capital, Vision to Impact, Shaping the Next Generation in Private Equity. My name is Zuzana Kurek. I am founder of Cornerstone Communications. We have been a proud partner of Morphosis Capital since 2019. We have prepared for you today what I hope will be a very insightful evening. We're not just going to talk about Fund 2, which is at the heart of the discussions, that is going to be at the heart of the discussions today, but we are going to talk about the future of private equity and also the evolution that we have seen both globally and locally. I will be your MC for the night, so you will see me quite often getting on and out of the stage. So without further ado, I would like to invite on the stage the man of the hour, Andrei Gemenanu, the managing partner of Morphosis Capital, to welcome you to this event.
Well, let's see, it's like in private equity, they always say that the congratulations are due at exit. So let's see if the applauses are still going to be deserved at the end of the speech. Listen, I don't usually get nervous with speeches, but I have to confess that I am nervous tonight, so bear with me. So welcome, really. Welcome to this Morphosis event. It's a celebration of trust. It's a celebration of the trust that investors put in us, of the trust that company founders put in us, that we put in company founders. It's a celebration of the trust that we build with each other as an internal team, as an internal organization, but equally with the entire ecosystem that a private equity firm like us operates in. The agenda item for my speech is called From 0 to 100. And while it is true that we seem to be on track to achieve or surpass a 100 million euro fund size, I think probably a more appropriate name or agenda item for my speech would be to capture the journey that Morphosis has been through, starting in a 14 square meter empty room at Regus to the room that we have here tonight. I think that's a much nicer, more meaningful, people-driven encapsulation of the journey. But indeed, this is where Morphosis has started, in this little room at Regus. In fact, somebody in the audience, he will know who he is, called that space, or Regus in general, or that space in Regus, the House of the Orphans at the time. And that's, to a certain extent, how we felt, because we were full of passion and ambition, but at the same time, we felt orphaned at the time of support, really, from an ecosystem that didn't exist at a time, and orphaned, to a certain extent, of the belief in others that our vision and our ambition can become real and can materialize. The ecosystem since then has grown a lot. It has developed phenomenally. And frankly, we have grown with the ecosystem. In fact, I remember very vividly I think it was around 2018, when I received a call from the EIF team in Luxembourg, a gentleman called Rémi Berthelot, who left EIF since then, hopefully not because he decided to support us, but he left anyway. And Rémi called to say, we have decided to invest in your strategy. We are ready to start due diligence. And I remember very vividly where I was. It was such a moment that marked me, that impacted me. I was in a Mega Image store, a Mega Image concept store in Piazza Galați. I apologize to Iulian Nica for mentioning a competing retail outlet on stage. I promise it's this time and never again. I remember that I put my shopping basket down and I got tears in my eyes. Such difficult, such demanding, such tough had the journey been up until that point, in a market that didn't really exist, in an ecosystem that hadn't really taken much shape at that point in time. And that moment has really, really marked me, and I remember it very, very vividly. Since then, the journey has been a true whirlwind of a journey. We have raised a Fund 1 of 50 million. We have invested this Fund 1 in 6 amazing companies: Morphosis, Medima, Dr. Lahu, Kronos, EMI, and Stay Fit Gym. We were able to invest in the heart of the pandemic. In fact, we made 3 investments in 2020. We were able to grow 3 times revenue and EBITDA in a period of 3.5 years within the consolidated portfolio. We were able to drive 3 exits, 1 full, 2 partial, each one of them with an IRR above 30%. Then Fund 2 came. We targeted 80 million as a fund size. I would say somehow miraculously, in this very, very difficult fundraising environment, we are clearly on track to surpass the 100 million euro mark as a fund size. We then partnered with Fund 2 with 2 other phenomenal businesses, Mark Twain International School and the umbrella of the Romanian Education Alliance. And then soon to close, the phenomenally successful business in retail, La Cocoche. So it's been a phenomenal journey, and we are extremely grateful for how far we've come. But how far we've come, more importantly, creates the obligation for us to continue to raise the bar on us and to go forward. Now, again, I'll quote somebody in the audience today. He will again know who he is, who said that what sets Morphosis apart is the mindset that failure is never an option. And I think this captures very, very well our ethos. That's how we wake up every morning and come to work driven by this desire to be successful, with a keen focus to do more, faster, better, sharper. This is something that, to the desperation of the team, I am personally guilty at times, trying to continuously raise the bar on ourselves. I always wonder, and we're always wondering, what do other teams, how do they think? What do we ask, what do the KKR team think in this situation? We are really trying to benchmark ourselves against established names and teams with years and years of experience. And really, with this mindset of failure is just not an option, this is how we are looking at the future. We are very keen to turn Morphosis Capital into a long-term, sustainable private equity platform, not only for Romania, but for the region as well. And this is really what's animating us. This is what's getting us out of bed every morning. Now, as I said, the room tonight is, I think, a great encapsulation of the journey. It's a phenomenally powerful room. If we take a step back and we look around, I think there's drive, there's vision, there are means. I think an ecosystem like the one we have here tonight, frankly, can only succeed. And this is what we want to do alongside you. So really, I want to end by thanking you for being on the journey with us. I want to thank investors who are trusting us with their capital. We take this extremely, extremely seriously, and we will do everything. We will stay hungry, we will stay nimble, we will still stay keen to make this journey a continued success. I want to thank the founders who trust us with their most treasured possession, their company that they have built over years and years, and it's part of who they are, it's part of their lives, it's part of their being. I want to thank the team, the core team, the extended team, because I know how much passion and drive they bring into this journey, into work every day. And really today, as you will have seen on the agenda, and I hope that you will stay to see at the end, Today is also a celebration of what we call the unsung heroes. But these unsung heroes today will be sung and celebrated, because we should never forget that above and beyond our fancy PowerPoint or IRR numbers or whatever, there's an army of people in our portfolio companies that are on the front line, the people who really make sure at Medima that a patient gets the support that he or she needs, the people that make sure that in the case of doc process, we settle for nothing than the best automation for a client, the person who will make sure in the case of EMI that the solution, the access solution we are implementing at the client is nothing but the best. The person in Kronos that will really go the extra mile to treat a patient extremely well and be patient-centric. The person who will make sure our gyms are fantastic, are impeccable, and offer a brilliant solution. The person in Mark Twain that will treat the kids in the school like their own. All of these unsung heroes, they are the frontline people. It's to them, in a way, that we dedicate this evening, because without them, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having fancy events. We wouldn't be having fancy PowerPoints. We wouldn't be able to deliver the return numbers that we have been delivering, and we will try to continue to deliver. So I really want to thank you for being here tonight. I want to thank everybody in the Morphosis infrastructure and ecosystem. I want to thank the people that have been with us from day one and believed in us when there was, I would say, little reason to believe in us at that point in time. And I also want to thank people who joined us on the journey later on. We are here thanks to you, and we are extremely grateful for that trust. Our commitment is to continue on the journey, to stay the course, to remain hungry, to remain nimble, to remain demanding, to continue to raise the bar on ourselves, and to take the success journey forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrei. And now I will invite Simona Gemenanu, who is going to moderate the very first panel, the future of private equity. And I would like to invite our speakers for this panel, Florin Vasvari, the Professor of Accounting, London Business School and Academic Director, Institute of Entrepreneurship and Private Capital, Josephine Haas, Investment Operative Executive, SVP Private Equity, Permira, Bert Wiegmann, founder and partner, Langholm Capital, and Bogdan Naksinia, managing director, EMAG Ventures. Simona.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's a pleasure to have you around, and you bring a wealth of experience for what we, the first panel of the night, that we promises to be a provocative conversation on the future of private equity. So if I may, I'll introduce the panelists very briefly. So in no particular order, Florin Vasvari is beyond being a professor of private equity at the London Business School and an expert in his field, a member of the investment committee and together in the Morphosis Capital, and a supporter of Morphosis Capital from day one. And on top of this, he's in the boards of many prestigious companies, for instance, Banca Transilvania, Blantyre Capital in London, and others that in Middle East and London. Yeah. Josephine Haas is a Wonder Woman, I would say, because she has an engineering background, graduated from engineering in Romania and Paris. And then she had an outstanding career in McKinsey and Permira in London. And she brings the perspective of operating partner model in a big fund in Western Europe. Bert Wiegmann, and it's a pleasure to welcome him here. He has been with us from day one, like Florin. And more than this, he has been in private equity for more than my entire life. So I think we have things to learn from the beginning of private equity, emergence of private equity in UK, to running a successful fund in Nordics and UK, specialized in consumer businesses. And last but not least, Bogdan Aksina, who really went to the last chair, so that's why I introduce him the last. Bogdan Aksina is the managing director of EMAG Ventures, which is the CVC arm of EMAG, and I will invite you to tell us a little bit about your experience from your different angles about how private equity evolved and how do you see it evolving in the next decade or so. So I will start by saying that addressing a question to Florin. And I think there has been a huge evolution from Barbarians at the Gate, which many of you maybe read the book, the KKR era, the beginnings of private equity in Western Europe. Some argue that private equity has matured into a force for good, though the focus on value creation and ESG principles. Others claim it's merely a veneer responsibility. Where do you stand? Has the industry truly evolved from the times of Barbarians at the Gate, or is it still fundamentally about maximizing returns at all costs?
Thank you, Simona, and let me just take this opportunity to congratulate you, Andrei, Gabriela, and Dragoș, the team, and also the wider team for building this amazing entity that hopefully is going to change the economic landscape in the country. So, and this is actually a sign of how the private equity industry has evolved over time. So back then in 1990s, early 90s, the industry was just 100 billion globally. And today, depends how you count, but if you really look at the just pure private equity funds, it's about 6.5 trillion. If you take the wider definition of private capital funds, which include real estate, infrastructure, and other things, then we are talking about 14 trillion. So from 100 billion to a 14 trillion industry, it's the fastest growing asset class ever, at least over the last 30 years or so. So why is it so big? It's because the industry institutionalized itself. So back then, you didn't have pension funds and other institutions investing in private equity. Today, I think I was just looking at some data. Obviously, I'm a professor of accounting, so I like to count. But as of the end of last year, almost $1 trillion in capital in this industry has been provided by pension funds. So private equity industry has become an industry that manages the savings of millions of people around the world. That's one massive change. Second massive change was the explosion of various strategies from the original buyout, buy companies with debt and eventually liquidate them, sell them piece by piece. Today we have a huge plethora of strategies, growth funds. You have the operational angle has become incredibly important. ESG has become incredibly important, and information and data has become also very important more recently. And maybe the third evolution of the industry, because it has become so big, obviously, when something gets very big, catches regulators' attention. So now it's also regulated industry to some extent. So you can't operate a private equity fund without a license. You can't raise capital without a license. There's a whole process around it. So yeah, it's a sign of maturity. And the industry is expected to keep growing, by the way. It's, if you take various statistics, we expect by 2028 to reach anywhere between 20 and 25 trillion. So
thank you, Florin.
Sorry for the long introduction.
No, thank you so much. It's been very useful. Bert, you've been in private equity for more than 50 years. So how was in the early days in UK at the emergence of private equity as an asset class, and what can we learn from those days, even though Romania has had some funds, regional funds usually operating the country, is still at a very nascent phase. So what can you learn, can we learn from them, and what can you share from the evolution of private equity as an asset class in UK?
Is this working? Or is that working? Okay.
No?
That's better. I can hear myself. First of all, I just wanted to say how nice it was to be introduced as the eldest person in the room. And going back to the emergence of the deployment of private equity in London in the late 70s, early 80s, it was quite a phenomenon, and therefore undertaken somewhat randomly. There were no structured funds, there were no particular sectors that funds were producing. There were very few funds. Banks started to back and bankroll private equity off their own balance sheet, inhibited by Reg Y and Reg K if they were American. But it was sort of ad hoc. At the same time, there were advantages. The post-war quoted capital markets in Europe had seen a lot of unnecessary agglomeration. Companies had bought little subsidiaries that had got not much to do at all with their mainstream activities. And quite why they were bought, nobody really knew. And ultimately, as investor pressure grew on quoted company management teams to improve their game and their returns, these less relevant businesses came up for sale, and private equity was the buyer, really. And as Florin pointed out, with the use of leverage, early returns, with the use of leverage in a high inflation environment, then we mustn't forget, early returns were substantially good. And of course, that drew in investors. I think you asked me a little bit, what was fundraising like? In those early days, ironically, the smarter pension fund managers made a trail to our door to discover how could they get capital deployed in this new asset class. It didn't harm us at all that really everything that we were doing in London had been done in America in the preceding 20 years. So there were statistics emerging from there that helped the argument in London. There was no regulation, which came later. As we got more adventurous and did more deals, inevitably there were mistakes made and regulation got involved. But some of the continuing themes were definitely, there had to be a reason to buy a business, and there had to be a strategy that it had to deploy. It wasn't just buy it and leverage it and hope for the best and an exit. One had to think before one bought it, what's going to change? Why is it going to be a good investment? Who are we going to sell it to? And that drove a lot of strategic thinking, which perhaps wasn't really there in any great depth in the investment banking world, out of which private equity emerged. And then, of course, came the second layer that Josephine will talk about, which is operational management. Often these companies weren't working terribly well because they weren't honestly managed very well. So the role of private equity was not just to fund and finance the structure, it was to invoke the change through the introduction of the right management. And that's still what you're doing today. Now it's become, across the States and Western Europe, a highly competitive sector, very respectable, with honest and numerous statistics coming out of it, which and many followers, all of which add to the quality of the asset class, the largest growing asset class, as Florin has pointed out. And as a result, private equity funds have to specialize. They have to have a narrow area that is their focus, whether it's geographic, whether it's size, whether it's industry, sector, or type, because they've got to be super smart within that sector. You can't be super smart across everything and try and deal randomly with what's going on. But the key thing is, all those investments in the early days were all made with a view to improving value, improving profitability, and then the company ending up, after a transitionary phase, in the hands of a better, more relevant owner. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, you can take it.
I will turn to Josephine. I think Bert made the leeway to operating partner model and take into account the extensive experience of Josephine as an operating partner in Permira in London. I wanted to ask what can we learn from this model, and second, how relevant it is in smaller funds, because we are not talking about 1 billion plus fund in Romania yet. So mostly we are talking about funds between 50 and 100 million allocations to Romania. So what can we learn from your model in Permira, and how relevant it is for a smaller fund in CE?
Maybe I'll start by explaining what the operating partner does, because they also do very different things across different funds. So to pick up from where Bert left it, in private equity realized that it's not enough to do financial engineering. They needed to add value, and they needed to push the management teams to deliver that value. And then they were realizing that, at exit, they were leaving value on the table. They could have been doing much more with their companies, or there were companies that were struggling and they had no idea how to help them. So then they introduced this operating partner model, which meant, how do we bring into the private equity people with operational experience, with the scars of executives that can come in, bring either their industry or functional expertise, and help the management teams deliver value. So that's how that all started. And there's very different ways of doing it, from the KKR model, which it's almost like an internal consulting business, to the Permira model, where we're one team, the investment and the operating partner team. It's just that we have very different experiences, and we come in with a kind of value creation approach, and then partner with the management team.
What is your role? Was more on digitalization, or
so
sector focus, or?
I had two roles, I would say two hats. One more generalist hat, usually on 2 or 3 companies on the board, but also focused on value creation and co-leading the value creation together with the management team. So everything from M&A, pricing, everything you can think of in terms of value creation, but also focusing on the 5 things that really matter. I think that's what's important, not trying to do everything. And then the second hat was leading digital transformation across the board, which is a really important. So I think people in general, operating partners, have a industry focus or a functional focus. It's really important to have some sort of spike in order to be relevant, but you can't be relevant for everyone, which is why it's probably difficult. And then coming back to your point, how does the 100 billion fund that is able to hire 10 operating partners, ex-executives, have them on their payroll, how can you
replicate this in
replicate
a much
this
smaller
for
size?
a 100 million fund? I think the answer is you can't do that, but you can be, I think there are ways to create the same effect or similar effects. I think a couple of ideas. One, I think it's important that the deal team also, maybe some of them have some operational experience, because that enables them to at least navigate the situation and be able to have some sort of credibility in front of management and to kind of cherry pick what really matters. I think that's really important. Whereas in private equity, you have ex-investment bankers, and then you have the operating team who are ex-executives. Here you can be a bit more
this is changing, I think,
mixed.
is the way you build the team is changing more to adding operating capabilities, especially at the smaller size of the fund, where you have to do hold hands and do lots of groundwork yourself.
So I think that's one thing you can do. And then instead of hiring people, building an ecosystem and really making sure that you have the right experts, the right executives that you can tap into, incentivize them. I think that's the tricky part. How do you incentivize them?
How do you usually incentivize?
At Permira, it's typically some sort of a retainer and then some sort of benefit, for instance, the ability to co-invest in the fund.
Okay.
These are people who, you want people who are retired from their business, but you don't want them to be almost too retired. You want them to be still operational and wanting to support on the ground and roll up their sleeves versus too high level. Yeah, so we need to properly incentivize. And then the right consultants. I think we were at Permira morphing more from the McKinseys of the world to the boutique, very expert consultants in pricing, in digital, in data, and then knowing the right people, getting to know them and building a playbook so that you can help your portfolio companies. And I think the challenge will always be, you're not going to have the same problem everywhere.
Never.
It's going to
So,
be an industry,
yeah. That's my learning
combined
as
with
well.
function
Yeah.
problems, so you need the right person.
Yeah.
But definitely possible in a creative way, I guess.
Thank you. Bogdan, you were the head of CVC, so Corporate Venture Capital. So why EMAG set up, what was the reason behind the decision to go into this corporate venture? And what is the role of a corporate venture in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it came naturally. It was part of our DNA to believe in entrepreneurship. Actually, in EMAG, it's more like a corporate PE, if I could tell, because we act more like a PE, not like a VC. And it was about access to great entrepreneurs. So we see the power that we unlock when we bought companies with great entrepreneurs, invested in companies with great entrepreneurs. Also faster access to knowledge, to specific knowledge, to areas in our ecosystem. And also it was a place for people in EMAG to grow. In companies that we invest in, same day, in TAS, in Flip, actually there are great people that are leading those companies right now as a senior management that were part of EMAG, and so they found a place to grow in this company in which we invest in the past. So I think it was something absolutely natural, and it was more like a PE because we came with majority or path to majority with access to capital, but also to our knowledge, and also we share our best practices either from technology, data, human resources, international expansion, and so on.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time. There are 10 minutes, and I'd like 5 minutes for questions from the public if there is. So I will address a question to all the panelists. We spoke a bit, we gave you a bit of background about the evolution and what happened in the past in the evolution of this asset class. I would like to look at the future. And my question is, in a world defined by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, do you believe that private equity-backed companies are better equipped to weather these storms compared to entrepreneur-led businesses or public companies? How does the structure and strategic outlook of PE provide an advantage? Or do you believe it could sometimes limit agility in the face of rapid change?
You want me to go first? Sure. I mean, I make a living teaching private equity, so I have a long story why private equity is better. But I think, my humble opinion is that it's just a better governance model compared to the alternative, which is public equity. And I say that very responsibly, given that I sit on the board of a publicly listed entity as well. But when you have concentrated ownership, which is the case in a private equity, then decisions go much faster. When you have alignment over the long term, then one can focus not on the next quarter or the next year, but they can focus 5, 6, 7 years ahead. So more value creation. And there is, to some extent, a better incentive model in private equity. And it's probably the only asset class where there is perfect alignment in terms of the investment horizon between the fund manager and their investors. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the workings of a private equity fund, but by definition, the fund manager gets paid only after investors get paid. And that's not really the case in public equity, where the CEO of a company can get their option plan can vest and they can sell their shares way ahead of institutional investors holding the shares. And probably the biggest advantage that private equity has, at least relative to other alternatives which were not able to lock in the capital. Private equity does lock the capital for 10 years, so one could see this as a downside, but the bigger advantage is that it actually leverages access to private information when allocating capital in the private market, while those people in the public market, investors in the public market, do not benefit from private information. Obviously, it's criminal to use private information to trade in the public markets, but in private equity, on the way in, when a company is bought, and on the way out, the manager uses private information to make these decisions. And not surprisingly, over a period of 40 years of this industry, as far as I know, there hasn't been a year that the average private equity fund lost money. I'm not trying to say that this is going to continue forever, but this is the data so far, so people try to understand why. And I think over a 40-year period, the model has proven resilient to some extent. And to some extent, there is a need for private equity because, unfortunately or not, but banking regulations have made it very expensive for financial institutions, in particular large ones. They made it expensive to provide capital to smaller, risky companies. So somebody's got to provide that capital, and that's where most of the jobs are in any economy anyway. So it's one of the biggest employers out there. Very few people know that large private equity firms out there are actually the largest employers in the world. So, I think the facts are speaking for themselves. Sorry.
Yep.
Josephine, anything to add from your
Yeah, I
perspective?
completely agree. I think for me it's patient capital, it's governance, and it's access to talent and resources. And I think the best example we have is COVID. And I've lived it within Permira, where you were able to be so agile and then get the support of the private equity fund that was backing you up, that companies were able to survive. And if you think about an entrepreneur, let's imagine it's an entrepreneur that's struggling with their business, they need to invest at the same time. How do you survive during a period of 1-2 years like COVID? It's very difficult. You have to be very lucky or very resilient. And similar in public markets, you can't afford to have a bad quarter. You really want to make sure that every quarter you're performing at your best, otherwise it's really a disaster. So private equity offers that patience that, okay, it's COVID, it's going to be a year or two, we're going to turn things around, but on the long term, on the 5-year, 10-year period, we're going to be winners. And I think that's why VUCA, private equity go hand in hand.
Do you think that, I personally think you need to strike a balance between structure and governance and agility of the company. So you don't have to stifle the agility and entrepreneurship of the company, but you need to put some structure for the next level, otherwise it's not going to evolve. What do you think, this is for Bert and Bogdan, what do you think is the best recipe to respond to this, to strike the right balance between the two?
It's a very good question. Governance and the observation of regulatory requirements and the outside world and addressing ESG agendas are increasingly important. They're a burden on a small management team to get right, but increasingly customers and more often end buyers of these businesses insist on all of that. How the private equity fund communicates and manages that burden of governance on a management team is is a great skill, because often the management team know more about what they're actually doing in the sector that they're operating in, and don't really need to be re-educated by a bunch of wise guys. So it's a clever thing. But going back to the previous question, where we asked about private equity companies and other companies in challenging conditions, it's exactly the same sort of thing. If you had 3 companies, one may be family-owned, another quoted, and another private equity-owned, and you have the same challenging conditions arising, the guys in the private equity fund have got more help at hand. They've got capital at hand, and they don't have to fight it on their own. The public guys, publicly quoted guys, they go off and talk to investment bankers, which may help. The family guys are really on their own in those challenging situations. And the private equity guys probably can come up with a plan that says, well, X and Y haven't responded, and they're suffering, so why don't we buy those as well? And they can deploy not just the smart ideas, but also the capital.
Yeah, I think it's also important, getting back to your question, to understand that not all companies are equal and have the same level of maturity. And to understand that and to address that, to put the right amount of governance and procedures, considering the maturity of the company. When it's fast growing, you let that fast grow, and there is a moment where you know that you have to be compliant on some stuff. So it's important to understand that across your portfolio of companies to assess that in order to strike the right balance.
Thank you. I'll stop here. We still have 2 minutes, so 1-2 questions from the public. Anybody has a burning thing for taking advantage of the people here? No? We have a question?
So there has been a lot of discussion about the future of private equity at a global level, but could you just give 2-3 sentences about Romania and possibly what recommendations to drive the growth further?
You want me to take it? Okay. A couple of recommendations. Well, I think the most obvious recommendation, I think it's always good to learn from those people that experienced something before. And what better place to learn from than United States or Canada? I happen to be Canadian as well. So, but if you look at the Canadian pension funds, have been investing in private equity for a long time. They are the only pension funds in the world that have surpluses. And one of the reasons is because they invested in an asset class like private equity that has higher yields than other asset classes. So I think for me, one of the most important things would be to actually allow the pension funds in the country to invest in alternatives. They don't need to put a significant amount of capital, but when countries in Latin America allow pension funds to invest 10-15%, UK has been miles ahead. I find it sometimes puzzling that we don't allow our pensioners to have access to an asset class that has delivered. And it's just part of diversification, right? Is not, so I think that's one of the key. And bringing that, obviously capital is invested in the country, right? Jobs are created here.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid the time, Bert, you wanted to say something? Sorry.
I have the last say.
Okay. Bert should have the last say, for sure.
Look, I think the cornerstone of private equity in Romania has ultimately got to be Romanian pension funds, Romanian capital backing, Romanian talent, and funding growth in this economy. At the moment, it's all coming in from outside, and it will produce, I'm quite sure, a very good track record that will persuade these larger pension funds and the regulators to change their minds. And it'll take time, but it'll happen, I think.
And I have a recommendation for all the people in the room to invest in private equity in Romania, because this is the place. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We had a panel which covered more the theory, and I'm really thrilled that it will be my pleasure to lead a panel with the portfolio companies of Morphosis Capital. And I would like to invite on the stage with me Vlad Ardelanu, CEO of Medima, Jérôme France, the CEO of EMI, Alexandru Laskar, CEO Stay Fit Gym, and Anka Makovei, CEO of Mark Twain International School. I would like to mention all of the CEOs are also the co-founders, so we have a really extraordinary, group with us. I see Alex is missing, and Alex is over here. Great. Perfect, thank you all. The order has not been random because I have started with the oldest investment of Morphosis Capital, Medima. I remember September 2020. It was COVID. We talked a little bit about COVID.
Actually, the signing was August 26, 2020.
August 26, okay, so we have just celebrated 4-year anniversary. And I think it's an incredible story. So private healthcare, a very important area to invest in Romania. You have started from a startup. It has been quite a unique story, I think, in the private equity. And it was a very bold investment of Morphosis because it was a second investment, which was basically in a startup. So from one clinic, today you have 21 clinics across the whole country. You started with a very interesting strategy of investing in smaller cities rather than starting, let's say, directly with the main centers. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this growth that you've seen in the last 4 years that has been very impressive. And the previous panel was theoretical, more theoretical, let's say. You can talk in practice, what are the trade-offs that you have done as an entrepreneur and the CEO to get private equity on board? This question will go to everybody. But I have a first question. Do you think where you are today with 21 clinics for Medima would have been possible without Morphosis backing?
Well, that's an easy question. I hoped you would have started with a much tougher question. So the answer is simply no.
So, okay, I was... Perfect. We can finish here, I think, Andrei.
No, but we can explain. So it's imaging business requires a lot of capital, and a capital which needs to deploy a little bit longer term than usual. So without big capital deployment, you cannot. So.
When we talk a lot about the governance, and my question in this, the capital clearly is an important aspect of the growth. To what extent is governance and the structure that the private equity brings to the table important in growing, especially from a startup to a scale-up where you are today? Is this something that helps, or does it actually hinder the growth, and you would like to see, let's say, less of the governance and more of entrepreneurial spirit? How did it work in the 4 years of your collaboration with Morphosis?
Yeah, it's a much tougher question. So we learned from the first panel that governance is one of the key assets that private equity brings to an entrepreneurial company, and yes, it is. So governance is important, but here I think maybe our story stands a little bit apart because Morphosis did something that not necessarily a private equity does, or maybe it's at the edge of a private equity and a VC, a venture capital, because Morphosis joined Medima at a very, very startup phase. There was a startup where we were not really delivering profitability, and the decision to invest in a startup was more linked to investing in management and also investing in the trust that the management would eventually bring to the project. And that particularity of boldness that Morphosis had at that moment, I think, put it apart because we probably we could have built it with some other private equity, but not at that phase. So Morphosis took a very bold approach and said, yes, we will invest in a very, very early stage, which usually you don't see to private equity all along. Obviously, on some other investments, they did it at later stage, but for Medima, was at a very, very early stage. So also, Andrei said that tonight it's a celebration of trust. And for Medima was really trust at the beginning because there was not too much of a business. So I think this is what Morphosis stood apart with their commitment to this business of ours. And that's also part of the corporate governance because trust is so much part of the governance. So we had trust from the very beginning, and yeah, all the other elements of corporate governance that usually is helping a business to grow, they were there and helps us a lot.
I wanted to ask you also a little bit, so you can, in the audience we have people who know you, people who maybe come from abroad and who don't know the story of Medima, but I would like to invite you is share a little bit about the development strategy of Medima, because as I mentioned at the beginning, it's been quite unique. I mean, the approach that you have taken, the strategy of developing and building a name, I think it's a remarkable story. In 4 years, you've managed to build a very strong and noticeable brand in the market, and how did you approach it? And what was the input that you had from Morphosis? Is this something that you came to the table with this strategy, or this is something you have came up together?
Well, actually, we came up together. So I had a vision of scaling a hospital service into a retail and retail and shopping mall approach, which is truly unique on a healthcare landscape. And this is coming from my DNA as a retailer. I would say an old retailer right now. But it was sharing this idea of scalability of a hospital service into a retail network, basically, with Morphosis. And I believe that their business acumen and the way they really deeply understand Romanian market brought us together in trusting that this can be built, because there was an element of innovation and there was not much business beforehand that would make it the business concept of the proven business concept. So that again strengthened our relationship, and learning together, it also gave us huge benefits about scaling up faster, because at the moment that you have a deep understanding of the business together with your partner, then you can really go fast. So that unique start helped us to grow really fast later on.
And today, if you were to give us few arguments, what makes Medima stand out in this highly competitive private healthcare market in Romania? What are the main assets to your clients, to your patients? What differentiates you versus sometimes maybe more established players, and where do you build your market share, basically?
Well, we created an excellent healthcare service, which is a little bit innovative, because we put the patient in the center, and we thought, what can make better and what can we make more convenient for the Romanian patient than other big established players on the market. And this is where we innovated. And we had 5 vectors of excellency embedded in our service, which really makes it standing it apart. Because beyond all the story of scalability and fast and alignment with the partners and so on, you really have to have the market. And in order to have the market, you really have to have a product or a service that sells, and it sells because it is performant. And yeah, I can talk about this, this service that we provide and why we believe it's standing up apart. But yeah, that was our story of creating a new service which is more convenient, better for the Romanian patient. So it starts with the patient and the service that you are selling.
Thank you very much, Vlad. We'll come back to you. We have also a round of questions for everybody at the end. But now I would like to move to Jérôme. I will now mention the date of the announcement that everybody in the room found out about the deal. So September 2021, investment of Morphosis Capital and the co-investors also in EMI. Today you have really expanded your footprint. So you have managed with the capital that you raised to grow both geographically and operationally. EMI has assembly facilities in Romania and in Slovakia, and service and maintenance capabilities in Romania and Belgium. And I remember very well, we had a series of videos that we filmed with all the founders, and I loved what you said in one of the videos where you said Morphosis Capital came with smart money, and that it allows you to keep your flexibility, and that was one of the biggest assets that you said already several years after having the investment. And I think it would be very valuable for the audience if you could share again, what did you mean by the smart capital, and how were you able to identify the capital brought by Morphosis as smart?
You know, when I met Morphosis, the first thing I said to André is I don't need money. I need a free involved consultant. So I need a partner. And it was situation of the company at this time because it was a very profitable company, active in Romania with a position of market leader. But once I've been in this position, I say, okay, it's nice, but what's next? And what's next, it will not just to continue like this because if we want to keep growing, if we stay on place, we will go back. If we want to keep growing, we need to grow with internationalization of our company, of our service. And if we want to go fast, we need to make acquisition. And I did not have any experience in this field. So this is what I was looking for. Some people able to be around me and close to me and give me the trust that we can develop with acquisition, M&A, and going to the next level. So that's why we had a very good understanding. And when we have some negotiation at the very beginning, you know, I say, you will invest in me, but I invest equal in you as well. Because if you are good, we will succeed. If you are not, we will lose all what I still have. And the good thing that it is that they are good, they were good, so we succeed to go to the next step. And next step is even now also with another Innova private equity fund, and we partner all together with our friend from a family office in Belgium, and all together we managed to keep growing now.
I would like to ask you, because now exactly this was my second question. So you have Morphosis Capital, so I guess experience has been good enough. Now you have also a second private equity fund in your shareholding, and there is a lot. So you know, when we talk with entrepreneurs, or whenever I engage with entrepreneurs, and there's always a discussion, you know, if to get a private equity, the image of a private equity, and this is what Andrei also asked me to challenge you in this panel, is it's not the best. I mean, this is the public image that, you know, cutthroat industry, we are just looking for profits. And I think that, and this is my question here, do you feel that this has been your experience? I mean, to what extent let's say, what the entrepreneur fears, the money comes with versus what you actually lived through?
You spoke before about governance. So until Innova came in the capital, governance at EMI was very simple. You listen to André, he was saying, governance at EMI is, if you agree with Jérôme, it's good. If not, it's not good. So, I mean, I was able to keep this entrepreneurial spirit, to be able to do whatever I want. And Morphosis was smart enough to have some, let's say, some impact in area of experience. On expertise as well. So without Morphosis, we will not get Innova on board today. Without Morphosis, I will not make so fast international expansion acquisition. On this field, that's some expertise that I do not have. So let me do whatever I want, what I know in my business, and this is my expertise, and you come with your expertise, and that's how we manage to have a good partnership.
And the last question for you. So you did cross-border M&A. So it's quite an exciting story to see, companies, international companies acquiring other businesses in other countries. How has this experience been from you? This has been something that you want to keep repeating? I mean, you want to grow the footprint of EMI at the European scale? Is this something that you've had good experiences so far? Is this the strategy you will pursue also going forward?
Today we are a European group with head in Romania because we have some shareholders of 4 nationalities. We have activities in 3 countries and we will keep growing in our footprint international. What we want to do is to be in a top 3 position in each market when we enter. So it's the case in Romania, so we are number 1 by far. By the end of the year, we will be top 3 in Belgium. So it's time to prepare the future. Now we are looking at other countries. In our approach, we need to be realistic. In which country we have the time in a 5 years horizon to be a top 3, we have time and capital to do that. So this is what we are exploring now, to make a nice package and to become with some innovation, because we are working in decentralized model. It could be anti-natural for private equity to accept that, but it's work. And also, this is what we are a smart shareholder with Morphosis and Innova, who accept this model, who accept to keep the DNA of each company and not to make a group, but to make a group, yes, but with a decentralized organization, to be closer to the client, to be closer to our organization, and this is working. So this is something unique that we are doing, an approach multi-brand, more close to the client, with a shorter circuit of decision, shorter circuit of action. And we keep this model, today Romania and Belgium, and tomorrow in other countries where we have the capacity to become top 3 in 3-4 years.
Thank you very much, Jérôme. I will now move to Alex. Stay Fit Gym, incredible growth journey. So investment announcement December 2021. At that time you had 7 gyms. Today we are talking about 44 gyms with a target 50 before the year end. It's an impressive growth. It's a very entrepreneurial growth again. Today you are the biggest also gym operator, almost by the end of the year in Romania. And I wanted to ask you about something about scalability, because I do believe fitness is a rather personal journey. It's a more personalized, more personal, highly personal business. And how do you grow? How did you manage to grow in 3 years from 7 to 44 without losing the touch with your clients, without losing the clients, with growing the clients? If you have some KPIs that you could share with us, and also if you could share with our audience, how did you manage to accomplish? Because I think this is a great, every time with scale, there comes a challenge of maintaining the base, and you have managed to really successfully execute on that.
Hello, everybody. So I don't really have the exactly recipe to show you, but I can tell you what's happening in the last years. So, of course, when we start to do that, we already have a model, and probably Morphosis loved this model because it was simple in the same time for us to operate. It was simple to create this model, and this enough complex for the members to embrace him. So we try to do step by step different move, and I will start with some example for understanding. from the small for the small things that we decide to keep the same architectural team all over the long time. We create our personal school of trainers because we decide, okay, there is not enough trainers in the market to put in our gyms. Let's create our own school. So we created 5 years ago our own school. Then we work so much as communities. We have two different type of communities for the members and for the employees and our team. Almost all the manager that now is center manager or regional manager, they are coming from the reception. Mm-hmm. It was my idea to give them opportunity to evolve. So one more example. Now, it's look crazy, but now I'm still in more than 65 WhatsApp group with every reception, every team that I have in the company, because of course I'm not interact with them every day, but I want to give them trust that anytime at every hour they can contact me and they told me everything they want. So we try to create community, and if we manage to create a community at the employees level, then we could expand it to the members level. I think that was the personal touch. And also I mention adaptability, because we had an example, fortune for us, we had an example in this company, similar company in Romania, that they were growing in different city. They didn't want to adapt to that market. And in Romania, every city in fitness is a different market. We understand that the adaptability need to be our focus. Mm-hmm. And every time when we open a city, me and my partners are going there. We stay 2-3 days. We train in some different gyms. We stay in touch with what happened in that city, and we try to adapt the city businesses to that city.
Now, when we talk about private equity, of course, we talk about money driving returns. And you are in a segment, in the mid-market segment. So you offer to your customers, let's say, more affordable option to train, to access personal trainers. And I have a question related to the pressure. Is there a pressure that comes from your investors to drive higher returns post-investment, or did your business model somehow consider already that with the scale also the returns will become larger? How did you approach the topic of striking the balance between the pricing and sufficient returns that satisfy the investor?
Like Jerome said, the best quality of Morphosis is they didn't intervene so much in our model. So they stay there, they give us some advice when we ask them, but I think they love the model from the beginning, and to take a model and then to destroy it doesn't sound so smart. So we tried so much to keep the fitness affordable in the good gyms in all over the country. We try to, our tagline is it's your lifestyle. We want to create from fitness in Romania a lifestyle. People shouldn't have so much to think about when they decide to buy a membership. Mm-hmm. So now we offer them modern gyms now it's 20 cities in Romania. And we try as much as we can to stay in the same prices. So I don't think, maybe sometimes they try to advise. We do as much as we can, but we agree that the model is working and we try to keep it in the same way.
So my last question was about if the private equity made you rethink your business model. So, okay, it's clear that the private equity invested directly in the business model, but are there areas of operational areas, let's say, that you see a significant improvement that also make your life easier as an entrepreneur, where structure and a bit of governance that we keep talking about, organization, be it at the level of the advisors or at the financial department, that you see really truly added value that the private equity brought that you wouldn't have gotten there necessarily yourself without that extra push?
To be very honest, in front of so many people, when we joined our forces, we was a mess. I will be very, very honest. We used to have 6 companies. the financial part doesn't look so good in matter of reporting and everything. So I think the most important thing that they contribute, and Adrian here, that was our CFO for 1 year, they help us a lot to put the financial in a manner that a real company look like. Of course, during this process, we change our plan from 4 times. We change our mindset. And also, changing these plans, we also need to change the model of businesses. Because when you decide to make 30 gyms, like in the first plan, it's something. When you decide to make 50, a bit changing. When you decide to make 75 or more, and you need to adapt the businesses to work in small spaces, to work in different cities. So the model was changing, but it was a normal course of the development.
Thank you very much, Alex. And now I will turn to Anka. Mark Twain International School, January 2024, an announcement, first investment also of Morphosis Capital Fund 2. It was a big announcement in Romania because it was the first time that there was a private equity investing in education. Again, we talked a little bit with Vlad about the importance, the private healthcare market, so the importance of it, which is very competitive, with a lot of private capital backing. On the other hand, with your case, it was really an uncharted territory when Morphosis decided to make this investment, and I think we got a lot of positive responses also from journalists or generally from people who were very moved in a positive sense by this investment, that there is finally a player who wants to do something in education. You are celebrating this year, this is the 3rd decade of Mark Twain International School. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've been doing a fantastic job. And I want to ask you, because I think when we compare with the examples of Vlad and Medima and Alex and Stay Fit, in a way there is a certain similarity. So the goal of the investment of Morphosis is to bring the standards in education of Mark Twain International School outside of Bucharest, where you have been historically, this is your core market, to more places, also within Bucharest and also to other cities. And actually, I would like to ask you if you can tell us what are the plans. You have recently broken ground on the new school that you are going to be building in Cosmopolis. Again, congratulations, another important milestone in 2024.
Thank you very much.
What are the plans? What do you want to do with this capital injection together with Morphosis Capital?
Yes. First of all, please allow me to hijack the discussion thread because Vlad inspired me. He said earlier in his presentation that tonight is a celebration of trust. And I would like to add to that, it's a celebration for us of gratitude and of inspiration. Gratitude that we have intersected with the Morphosis Capital team, with Andrei, Simona, Dragos, Gabriela, with Guy, and also with such wonderful partners, CEOs in the portfolio of Morphosis that we can learn from and that can inspire us. And of inspiration to be able to have access and to tap into such greats in the private equity sector like we're doing tonight. So thank you so much for that. Regarding our development, you also said uncharted. Well, uncharted is our middle name. For the past 30 years, this is what we have been doing in private education in Romania. We set up the school in 1995 before the law of education was passed. So we took all the bumps down the road. We went through the recession, through the pandemic, and many other types of challenges that you find in an overwhelmingly public-owned sector, like the education sector is in Romania. So for us, it's exciting. It's wonderful. It's inspiring to be able to say we're entering uncharted territory, and this is what we're doing with Morphosis. It's a little bit of honoring our past and what we do, and knowing what we do via our profession, but also learning something new alongside a partner like Morphosis Capital. Now, regarding our development, we have two major axes for development. We have organic developments for Mark Twain International School. So we already have 2 campuses, construction sites that are being set up for Mark Twain International School. One is Cosmopolis and one is the flagship campus. But we hope to add on more organic development initiatives as we progress. The second axis is also very important. It's the M&A axis, where we're trying to extend a hand to other founders in private education to join Romania Education Alliance and to join our mission moving forward.
Thank you. We talk a little bit about the pressure that comes from having an investor, so it changes naturally the way you run your business. And do you have fears still, or did you have at the moment when you were looking for a partner, because it was a conscious decision that you made actually to find a partner to help you scale Mark Twain International School? Do you fear that it might affect, let's say, the quality of education, this focus on growth, but also, of course, on returns? Because at the end of the day, the job of the investor is, of course, to also expect certain returns. And what is your plan on managing this, let's say, this fine balance between keeping your standards very high as you did until now, but also satisfying the needs of the investor, which is the need of certain returns?
Yes, indeed. So basically, we obviously had concerns. But these concerns were alleviated very soon when we met Morphosis Capital. We had been looking towards the market to find partners. We were ready, and we felt that the school was maturing. As an entrepreneurial team, we were maturing in a good sense, and we were ready to take our message beyond the walls at Mark Twain International School, bring it to other schools, bring it to the community, bring it out regionally and nationally. So we spoke, and this provided a tremendous learning curve for us, because we met different strategic investors. We met other private equity firms. And through the dynamics of the dialogue that we had with them, we understood what our boundaries are and what we want and who we are actually and what are the next steps. So when we met, our aspirations intersected with the aspirations of Morphosis Capital. They were looking to invest in education in Romania. And for that, we thank them and salute them. So there were concerns, but we already knew. And these were alleviated very early in our discussions, because we realized that we were aligned. And when there is alignment, doors open, as you know, in any field, in any profession. So we were confident from the very beginning that this is what we want. And moving forward, obviously, there is a degree of compromise between what you expect or what new ideas come in from our partners. But they're highly respected, and we always see the added value in what they bring. And so we're sure that together we can navigate and ensure that we make ends meet, both financially, but also as a quality of service that we provide to our students.
Thank you very much, Anka. I can't wait to see what's next for Mark Twain. I'm also excited because this is the scaling phase that we've discussed with the other founders. So I think it's a beautiful time ahead of you. And now I have a round of 2 questions. I have 2 questions for each of you. So one of them is related to compromises that you had to make when you took a private equity on board. And on the other hand, I want to touch a little bit also to the subject of ESG. It's a big word that everybody's talking about, and I think it would be not very wise of us not to address it today. But I will start with the compromises. So again, private equity, there must be a compromise that you make. So this is a new experience for all. Actually, I will start with Vlad, because for him that was not a new experience at all. You have a career where I think you've dealt with a lot of private equity investors, and I wanted to ask you are there any different trade-offs or the compromises that you made with Morphosis? Were there any different, or how is the experience with Morphosis against the other private equity experiences you had in your career?
Well, when you started to ask the question, I started to try to build up my answer. And when you talk about compromises when joining a private equity partner, you can eventually think of pressures for growth, like much similar to the conversation that we had there. And then you would eventually come across to this point when you have a CEO which is not necessarily a co-founder or a partner, where you don't have this very neat alignment in terms of vision and returns. So I believe this is not, well, in our case, definitely it's not the case. And with me particularly, it was much simpler because I have a history of working with many private equities before. So not much to compromise there, as long as you already have a very, very strong alignment in terms of returns that you can get from scaling up fast. Because net, the objective is growth. So maybe you can have a slower growth than one partner is expecting, or a faster growth, which is obviously the best case to be. So in our case, not much, disalignments or problems, but on top, I would say that the fact that we both co-invested very early in the business forced us to learn very deeply about the business, and the alignment was made also at the business level, at hardcore business dynamics at the very beginning. So then there were only benefits because we were aligned fully, and then we can really benefit from that, and fast growth emerged later on.
Now, Jérôme, your case has been different. So you mentioned you actually did not need the money. You needed a partner with. So do you feel that there were any trade-offs that you needed to make for your business, for yourself as an entrepreneur, by welcoming a private equity fund on board?
No, as I said before, each of us was focused on his area of expertise. So it was very good. I don't feel any compromise, by the way. I feel a support where I need it, but I don't feel a compromise. And I'm also very grateful because I learned a lot during this journey. Compromise is not a good word. No, sharing, yes. We share experience, we share solution, we share problems, but compromise is not a good word.
Thank you. Alex, any compromises for Stay Fit Gyms?
I'm still thinking if we already sell our soul to the devil, but I don't think that. I'm thinking maybe the major compromise or trade-off could be our personal time, and I will explain that. When we decide to create this project, we decide that our work will be like, let's say, a small raining in the summer, doing 4 or 5 gyms per year, and we all decided, okay, this will be the plan. Now, for example, in November this year, we'll have 5 openings in the same month. Now it's a hurricane, but we decided together to ride this wave because it's good for both of us, and probably my wife over there will admit that my compromise is my personal time, but we embrace that and we really hope to get there.
Thank you. And Anka, it's a little bit early on, but let's say you have 10 months experience right now. Do you feel there has been any compromises so far?
I would analyze the word compromise, take it back a few steps. You arrive at a compromise when there's a difference of opinion and someone has to give way to the other. So if there are differences of opinion, most definitely there are, but we welcome them. So we haven't arrived, and we will not arrive. We do not decide on arriving at a compromise because we look forward to understanding that difference of opinion, to dissecting it, and to seeing who is right and what is the added value, and learning along the way. This is our attitude in education, and of course we take it, we lend it in everything we do, starting from our contact with the students, with the teachers, with providers, and so forth. And naturally, this will grow into our relationship with Morphosis Capital and the team. So differences of opinion, again, yes, but for us, all these challenges are intellectual challenges, and they provide the correct environment for us to grow. And I think on both sides, if I may say.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Anka. And the last question for each of you, 1 minute for everybody. ESG has been a big topic. It's been a big topic for investors and for companies alike. There are now appearing some, let's say, more negative voices that can claim also that ESG can distract companies from growth. And I wanted to challenge you if in your cases, because you've had a certain degree of ESG journey already with Morphosis Capital, if you feel that this statement is true, that ESG could have been a distraction from focusing on growth, in your case, Vlad.
Well, on healthcare market, it's a little bit different, and I'm going to be very genuine about it. So the patient really not caring that much when selecting a private healthcare operator, whether an ESG standard is higher or lower. They don't select by that. They select by medical excellency. And this is where we focus most. So, but again, having a private equity partner which had an ESG agenda, we also had it internally. But again, being very, very honest with you, in our business, this is driven mostly by the suppliers of equipments, and they build up MRIs or CT scanners or PET-CT scanners, which are more environmentally friendly, and this is where the biggest impact there is. So if we are driving it, yes, but on the sidelines, because we are driven by the suppliers of the equipment, and also the private equity is helping to drive this agenda, and also putting us in front.
Thank you. Jérôme, in your case?
Well, it's a good challenge, ESG. And our challenge is not just to respect ESG, it's to use ESG to make more profitability, to be smarter with the client, using, the spare part for the second time, using all the drivers that we have to make eco-drive and to save consumption. We have a lot of solutions to make more money with ESG. So we need to be smart in this field as well. And it's a very good challenge, and we about it. I mean, we go in this direction like this. We know that it will be mandatory for everyone. We know that our clients, it's B2B market. So when we are working with big industrial clients, investors in, logistics centers, commercial centers, they need it. And we try to be a precursor and to be in front with that.
I love that, because you basically mean that ESG, if done well, can also bring actual financial gains to the company, and this is also the important approach.
That's why we need to be smart here.
Yeah.
We need to use ESG to bring more profitability, and it's possible. It's possible.
Thank you, Jérôme. Alex, in your case, I guess you have some really innovative projects, actually, that you have been doing at Stay Fit Gym, innovating also in your segment in terms of ESG, and I would like you to maybe share some of those.
Yeah, first of all, me, as a person, I really believe that we all should try to be at least more sustainability. But when we look at Stay Fit, now Stay Fit work with a lot of people. More than 15,000 persons daily visit our gyms. So as one of the leaders in Romania today, as the leader in Romania next month, and probably the leader of Eastern Europe in fitness next year, we should give an example for all those people who visit us daily. And we really try to make changes in that. Imagine every month you have more than 14,000 contracts and invoices for all the members. Of course, all of them is digital. We try to implement digitalization at every level in the gyms. Of course, we have done work with our AVIAC systems because we have big places to worm out and like that. But we also want to give the members example. And as you mentioned, now we work with some experiment in some clubs. We have 4 clubs that our cardio equipment now, we are first in Romania and pretty much I don't know, maybe some change in Western that try it. Our cardio equipment is connected to our electrical system, and when the people make sports, we create power and put it in the system instead of consuming power. So we try to give this example to our member and to give a statement in the market. We are involved in that, and we really want to be there.
Thank you, Alex. And for Anka, the last word on ESG.
Of course. So on the one hand, we strive to be compliant ESG-wise in the campuses that we operate, and also moving forward in developing new campuses together with the architects, the engineers, the project managers. This is very important to us. On the other hand, this is something that already permeates the culture in our institution. The International Baccalaureate Continuum, the primary years program, middle years program, diploma program, also following a global mindset where sustainability and care for the environment is crucial. And we have to be aware. So all of these things also following the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And these are part of the things that we teach. Again, it permeates what we do with the students. So they have become agents of action. They are the ones that remind us. And many of the projects that we have within the school that are ESG, they are initiated by our students. So that means a job well done. So there are many facets where we come in contact with ESG, and most certainly will continue to develop this moving forward.
This is a great, concluding remark also about the future of private equity, but also the future, how you form it. I am an international baccalaureate alumna myself, so I do agree that you have a huge impact.
So family.
Exactly. Not in Bucharest and not at Mark Twain, unfortunately, but you have a huge impact that you can have on children's life. And as I mentioned earlier, we can't wait for each of your companies to see what is next. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think that was a great panel. I thank you for your time. And now I would like to, yes, we can have a round of applause. We're going to have a 5-minute break. So I did mention initially we are not going to have a break, but I think everybody needs a 5-minute break. So we are going to regroup, and we'll see you on the stage in 5 minutes. We're going to have a presentation from Dragos and Adrian about Fund 2. Thank you.
And thanks a lot, Susanna, for putting no pressure on me with the most important presentation of the evening. I don't know if you realized you've been sitting here for 2 hours and you probably heard like 10 numbers altogether the whole evening. There was Alex mentioning going from 7 to 44 gyms. There was Vlad mentioning 22 clinics for Medima. There was Florin mentioning the size of private equity going from 100 billion to 14 trillion. And who can forget Andrei with his 14 square meters. So I'll give you 4 slides with tons of numbers and tons of acronyms, but they tell a story. This is what Florin was talking about. This is not going back as much as he was mentioning, but it's the growth of all the private asset classes. And you can see that they've been growing from 4 trillion to 14.5, so 4.5 times growth in 10 years. That's massive. That is really a lot. And the reason for it, if I could go to the next slide, is the performance. On top of the governance that he mentioned, all of those things are very important, but they end up in better performance than the public market. So you see on the left-hand side, the first 2 bars are growth funds and LBO funds, so private equity, in terms of IRR and in terms of returns, versus what is a modified public market equivalent. So investing in private equity, or the performance of the private equity is better than the public markets, whether you take it the MSCI index or you take the S&P 500. And there is a big discrepancy of how big private equity is by country. So you have UK and France, the most developed countries in terms of private equity in Europe, and Romania, unfortunately, somewhere towards the bottom. CE altogether much less developed than the rest of Western Europe, so there's a lot of potential for the growth of private equity in the region. Now, talking Morphosis, this is Fund 1, yeah? Just Fund 1 numbers. DPI, distributions to paid-in capital, means how much money we have returned to our investors compared to how much money we drew from our investors. At 0.3, compared to small cap funds, so the same comparable size to us, that were also vintage 2019, we are doing much better than the average. Then TVPI, total value to paid-in capital, means if we would sell all of our assets today at the value that we consider fair for the market, this is how much money we would return to our investors today. Again, we believe we're doing much better. These are statistics published by Prekin, which is a company that aggregates data at the level of the whole Europe. And again, the same vintage. So it matters, because if you think the average age of our portfolio is somewhere 3 years and a couple of months. So we are still in ramp up, but we have managed to grow the value of the fund quite substantially. The value, so this growth, if you take it year by year and you consider when we have invested in each of the companies, translates into a 31% gross IRR. The difference between gross and net is again from an investor's point of view. If we would sell today and return the money to the investors, not considering all the costs considering all the costs that have been incurred by the fund, considering the profit that the fund manager makes, our investors would make a 19.1% IRR over the period that they have invested with us. And if you look, it's a very good performance compared to similar funds in Europe. Now, we have created in the companies that we have managed more than 1,000 jobs. This is employees plus contractors. So it is, as everywhere else, a strong engine for economic growth and economic welfare at the level of the economy. And this is, again, only in these 3.5 years that we have, on average, kept the portfolio so far. On the right-hand side, you have what we forecast up until the end of the fund. So by the time we'll exit all the companies and terminate the fund. First, what we have already done, the 3 exits that Andrei also has mentioned, 30% IRR for each one of them. And if things go as we forecast at the moment, we'll return an IRR of 21% to our investors, and we would have done 3.4 times on aggregate, growing the value of the companies in which we have invested. And this is from the perspective of the portfolio companies themselves. The hashed out part are the companies that we have exited. The solid parts are the companies that are still in the portfolio of Fund 1. We grew revenue at an average annual rate of 55% and EBITDA at an average annual rate of 42%. And that is year on year, so it's not from the beginning to the end, but year on year if you aggregate it. We've done a lot of organic expansions, 57 altogether in each of the portfolio companies, and we have helped them with 14 M&As. Again, almost each of the companies have done an M&A in this period. So this is how you get to this kind of results. You do organic openings, you do M&A, you help with the operational improvement of the companies, and then your revenue comes and your EBITDA comes. And I'll invite Adi to talk you through our value creation strategies and our selection criteria for companies. Thanks, Adi.
Thank you, Dragos. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll try to give you an overview of what's our strategy in Fund 2, what we're looking for in the companies, and how we are growing the companies. So as we said a few times already, Morphosis Fund 1 was a 50 million euro fund. We target for Fund 2 a fund of 100 million euros. We're still in fundraising, so it'll probably be a bit more than that. But 90% of that capital is already committed from our investors, so we're pretty confident on that number. We plan to have 9 to 10 investments in Fund 2. We like to invest between 10 and 15% of the fund in each company, which means for 100 million, our average equity ticket will be between 10 and 15 million euros. And we target companies that have an EBITDA at the moment when we invest between 1 and 5 million euro in EBITDA. Now, in terms of geography, Fund 1 was focused only on Romanian market, so the entire Fund 1 was fully deployed in Romania. On Fund 2, we are starting to become a regional fund. So we have a lot of experience in Romania. We probably spoke with 200 companies or maybe 300 companies. We've done a lot of research. We have a good connections here. So in Fund 2, we'll be focusing in Romania as well, when we want to deploy 70% of our money. But we also want to do 2 or 3 deals in regional countries, such as Bulgaria, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, or Croatia. In terms of industries, healthcare in Fund 1 was one of the most important industries where we invested. 3 out of 6 deals were in this market, so we know this market quite well. We think there's still growth potential here in Romania and in the region. So in Fund 2, healthcare will remain a focus for us. But we also think we will focus on other sectors such as consumer products and retail, B2B services, or niche manufacturing. These are industries we kind of can understand and we can add value add to those companies. In terms of governance, we like to take a majority stake. That could be ourselves or together with a partner. That partner could be another private equity or a family office that has experience or synergies with that company. We offer share option plan to the management of all our companies, so that we make sure we are pretty aligned with the management in terms of objectives and business plan. Okay, this is what we're looking for internally. So we have 6 criteria we use to filter and screen for companies and to prioritize them. So we are prioritizing growing markets. We are a growth private equity, so we make our targeted returns if the companies increase 4 and 5 times in the 5-year holding period. So the better the market grows, the easier it is for us to achieve the business plan. Fragmented industry is also very important. So we're looking for industries where there are no dominant players in that market, where we can compete, we can consolidate, and create a national leader. Scalability is very important. So scalability means how we grow in the businesses. So there are two ways in private equity: either organically by opening new clinics, gyms, stores, whatever, or using a buy and build strategy, which is what we use for EMI, for example. So in EMI, we invested in 2021. We made 3 acquisitions, 3 M&A acquisitions. Now EMI is 3 times bigger than it used to be when we invested. Attractive financial economics. Obviously, we're looking for historical performance, gross margin, EBITDA margin, all this stuff that everybody's looking for. I just want to mention to you one key metric we're very careful about, and that is return on invested capital. So what we're looking for is, for every euro invested by our company, how much profit or EBITDA can that euro generate? What we're looking for is between 25 and 30% return on invested capital. So let me give you an example. If we have a medical clinic and we need to invest 1 million euro in that clinic, can that clinic at maturity generate 100,000 euro, 200, 4,000, or 500,000 euro in EBITDA? The bigger it is, the better it is for the scalability. So the bigger return on capital, the more money every euro invested produces more profit, so we can scale faster. So that's very important for us. Winning culture, this is basically, we want entrepreneurs that are very ambitious and very motivated. And we're looking for leadership skills. We need to build a team around them. We need to scale much faster, and you cannot scale faster with the same team that you have at the moment you invest. So you need to strengthen the management team. M&A activity from an exit potential, what it means that we are a private equity. We invest in companies, we grow the businesses, and we exit them after 5 years. So the more we see M&A activity in each industry, the higher the chances we have for finding a buyer. So this is, in general, what we use internally. Now, the interesting part is not all the companies to fill and check all these boxes, and to be honest, extremely few of them do. But they don't need to. What we need is to answer 4 questions. What is the business model, the competitive edge, how we grow in the company, how do the financials look like, and where do we exit? So as long as we have a clear answer on those 4 key questions, we can have a very good debate internally, and I mean answer, research and documented answer, and discuss with the industry experts, not just us sitting in a room. So let me give you an example. We invested in a company recently. It's called La Cocoche, which probably most of you know about it. It's a hard discounter. It's a retail company. They have only 3 stores at the moment, but last year they generated 200 million euros in revenue. So how they managed to do that? The founder managed to build a business model in which the operating cost per square meter it's much, much lower than any competitor in Romania and in the Central and Eastern Europe. So that allows the company to push prices down quite aggressively. And if you push prices down quite a lot, like 20, 30% versus other competitors, that increases the volume. So the company generates between 70 and 90 million euros in revenue per store. So that's the competitive edge. Now, let's think about La Cocoche, how it feels in all these criteria. So if you look and you think about it, it doesn't really check the first 2. But it checks the other 4, and one of them very well, and I'll explain in a minute. So retail market is a market that increasing by 8-9% per year. It's a good growth, but it's not impressive. It's not impressive, especially for us. It's not a fragmented industry. We have a lot of competition here, and it's a tough market. But it's a scalable business. Because it generates so much revenue per store, we don't need to build hundreds of stores. We just need to build 12. And we will reach 1 billion euro in revenue. And that's it. Attractive financial economics. This is kind of where the magic happens. Because with such low prices, the gross margin, EBITDA margin, are very, very low, like single digit. But if we look in absolute amounts, how much EBITDA a store generates versus the initial investment in that store, a store of La Cocoche at maturity generates about 50% return on capital. So 50 cents on each euro invested in a store. And that's more than we're looking for. Obviously, it doesn't generate immediately. It takes some time to ramp up. But this is not forecasted. This is historical numbers. Winning culture, the entrepreneur is super ambitious and motivated to grow the business. Every week he calls me to tell me, we need to build a billion company. M&A activity, there's a lot of activity in this sector, like in Romania, in the region. So exit, from our point of view, should not be a problem. So this is how we fit La Cocoche into these filters. So it is a competitive business. We know how to grow it. We just need to open several stores. The financials are looking very good, and the exit is looking very attractive. Let me tell you what is not our strategy. So we don't search for over-leveraged or distressed companies. We are a growth private equity. We're not a restructuring fund. So if a company comes to us in its financial difficulty and they want to capital injection to came back to profitability, that's not for us. It's too risky. We're not a restructuring fund or cyclical industry. We try to avoid that. I give an example. For example, basic agriculture. Like, it's too unpredictable for us, and it depends on external factors such as weather, and you can control those factors. And we like predictable businesses. Unproven business models, we don't invest in ideas or startups or very early stage companies. It's too risky for us. And declining industry, basically, this is more like obvious. So we're a growth private equity. We can't grow it 5 times if the industry is decreasing. Okay, and I have only one more slide for you. This is a question we get asked very, very often from our entrepreneurs. How are you guys helping me to grow the company? So we try to put here six bullet points and summarize it here. The key ways we're helping the companies grow. So one is recruitment of management. We need to build a bigger and complete management team. And we get involved in that quite often, recruiting CFOs, marketing manager, expansion director, and so on. And we leverage our network ourselves to find candidates and so on. Expansion strategy, this is something I personally like very much. We ask in every company, how do you prioritize, for example, in Medima or in Cocoche, which are the first 5 cities when you need to open a clinic or a store? How do you prioritize those cities? And we have a lot of discussions and debate on that. M&A process, when one of our company buys a competitor, we take responsibility for that entire process. Budgeting and reporting, we need to have very good reporting tools, and we need to have monitor KPIs operationally, financially, and so on. And we talk with the CFOs very often. We just need to make sure that the budget is very realistic, is ambitious in the same time, but we need to make sure that we have a good reporting tool there. Bank financing, we get involved with the discussion of all the banks. It's very important how we finance the expansion of our companies. And governance, it's very important to have a right discipline on how we make decisions. Like, if you decide to open a much bigger clinic or a hospital or a large store, we need to make sure that the entire management team did all the homework to analyze it very well from the point of view of impact on cash flow, on financing, on budget, on business plan, on our return, and so on. So this is in general how we get involved. Well, we get involved quite a lot, as you see, and it helps us in several ways. One of the things is that it's quite an entrepreneurial journey for us as well, and we enjoy it most of the time, all the time. It helps us a lot to build a relationship with the founders, and I think that's very important in growth capital. And it helps us a lot to understand the business much better. So we don't sit on the sidelines and every quarter we're waiting for a report and something like that. And it's very important for us to find the right balance between the entrepreneurial spirit in the company and the right governance and decision making. So in general, this is how we get involved. And we are pretty cool guys to work with, to be honest. Okay, so this is for me. I hope it gave you a good overview of our strategy and how we grow the businesses. Thank you.
I would like to ask if there are any questions actually about Fund 2 from our audience for Dragos and Adi. Okay, I think everything has been clear and there has been...
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I would like now to invite to the stage for the last panel of tonight, Options and Choices panel about character and resilience. The moderator for this panel is going to be Radu Manolescu, who is the co-founder and managing partner of KM Trust and Partners, an executive leadership consulting firm, as well as initiator and co-founder of AVE, an NGO with focus on significantly improving educational system in Romania. And his panelists are going to be Radu Georgescu, founder of JCAT Ventures, as well as here I need some understanding from Guy van de Vivere, I hope I got it close, thank you, managing partner, Vibros Capital Partners.
Thank you very much. So, good evening.
Hey!
I entered the executive search in 2001, exactly after Enron. Soon after Enron. And when I saw the disaster produced by very smart people and lacking character, I promised myself I will do my best to assess and nurture character and filter smart crooks when working for my clients. It became one of the two major pillars of my firm's mission, I mean character. Since then, we are doing our best to make sure we assess well, where we support, help the firms, the companies do their best to having not just very, very competent professionals, but also high character executives, and not only, in order to build sustainable value, not just immediate or short-term value. So in 2016, in a discussion with a former professor of mine from INSEAD, Kevin Kaiser, professor of value creation, he suggested me that I should talk to KRW International, a company who has proven scientifically the link between the return on assets and the character of the executive team and the return on assets. And I got in contact with Fred Kiel, with the founder, who unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. And he put me back then in contact with his daughter, who was the CEO of the company, Kelly Kiel-Garamone. And luckily, we met in a couple of days from that initial call. And it's a beautiful story, but it's too long, so I will just mention the last thing. She ended up the meeting by saying, Radu, you have the arts, we have the science, let's put things together. And since then, we have been collaborating and working closely, and their methodology is part of our flagship executive development part. So Kelly and actually KRW summarized the character science in a book which I strongly recommend. It's called Return on Character, and also in an article which is easier to read, Measuring Return on Character, which is on Harvard Business Review, published by Harvard Business Review. I wanted Kelly to join me, but she's in the States. She couldn't, so she will join us on a video with a recording, so she couldn't make it live, but she will be in the next minutes on a recording. So I invite.
Thank you, Radu. Hi, I'm Kelly. Since I can't be with you in person today, what I hope I can do is to stimulate your conversation with some key insights from our research, as well as to leave you with some challenges as you take these insights away with you today. Perhaps you've had a chance to read the article, the HBR article, Measuring the Return on Character, but if you haven't, I'm just going to give you a few brief highlights for context to our conversation. We conducted an extensive 7-year study looking at the connection between the character of leadership and business results. And what did we find? Well, we learned that organizations led by individuals believed by the workforce to be of high character, that on average, they reported nearly 5 times the return on asset as compared to organizations led by leadership believed to be of lower character. And additionally, those high character-led organizations experience significantly higher workforce engagement, lower levels of risk, and were believed to have management and leadership who are more strongly skilled than their lower character counterparts. So that begs the question, what do we mean by character? So we define character behaviorally. Simply put, it's how you relate and interact with others, meaning what kinds of relationships and conditions do you create in your workplace that either enable or hinder execution, collaboration, innovation, etc. So how does that happen? Specifically, what are the behaviors that are most associated with creating those conditions that accelerate performance? We tested more than 300 behaviors, and luckily we were able to reduce them to 26 that we grouped into 4 categories. So let's start with the ones that are probably fairly obvious, such as integrity, telling the truth, keeping your promises. When you do that consistently, what happens is that you begin to create a culture of accountability, an expectation of accountability. Similarly, responsibility, not only taking responsibility for your own choices, but for the decision and impact of your organization, that begins to create confidence in management, both internally and externally. The next ones are 2 that are in another category that we think of as being more of the heart, if these 2 are from the head. The first is forgiveness. And forgiveness is important when you think about how you learn from mistakes or how safe you make it to experiment. And when those conditions are positive, innovation is able to flourish. And the final one is compassion. Do you treat people as individuals, or do you treat them as like cogs in the machinery of your organization? If they're treated as individuals and help to achieve and grow, they will give you all sorts of discretionary energy through collaboration and cooperation and commitment to your vision and mission. So when you put all this together, you see organizations whose leaders have created the conditions that enable people to collaborate, innovate, hold one another accountable as they execute on the plan, and one that engenders confidence in management and leadership so that people will follow you, especially, or maybe even particularly when the business is growing rapidly or under pressure or stress. I have to say it's particularly encouraging to me that an organization such as Morphosis is gathering people to talk about this subject. As early movers in the nascent private equity market in Romania, Morphosis, all of you, are having a significant role in shaping not only the economy, but in effect, together you are creating the conditions and the cultures in the startup environment that either enable and accelerate your ability to achieve your vision, or could hinder it. So with that in mind, I'd encourage you to think about how you and your organization could answer these questions. How safe is it to take risks? How fast does bad news travel? How much discretionary energy do you get from your workforce? And finally, how quickly do people accept responsibility and correct mistakes? So I'm going to end here by paraphrasing Morphosis a bit. The good news is that just as they're able to get into the trenches with you to help you run the mechanics of your business, There also are now the means of getting into the trenches with you to help you consciously and consistently create the conditions and cultures that will accelerate and magnify the performance of your vision and business models. So, enjoy the conversation with Radu. I hope this gives you a great place to start. Thank you.
I would thank her, but she's not live. So I thank all of you, and of course these two distinguished gents who were kind enough to want to share their views and experience around the subject. Especially in a society dominated by focus on shareholder value rather than stakeholder value. And I'm somehow an outlier with this subject, mainly in this type of audiences, but I'm glad that Morphosis puts an emphasis on that. So, dear Guy, dear Radu, thank you for being here, and I will go through some of the questions I prepared. I've seen quite a few CEOs and business owners, board members, talk about character as a leadership trait. However, I've seen very few companies actually doing the character assessment, because people don't get hired by themselves, someone lets them in. So I've seen very few doing actually a proper scientific assessment of character. And what are the key practices you've seen working effectively in identifying leaders with both high performance and high character, not just high performance?
You take it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so, yeah, how are you guys?
Good.
All good?
And actually, just a brief interruption, I'm very honored to be here. And even though I'm not a Radu, I feel at my place here. Yeah?
I'm not
I feel
gay,
very
so
welcome.
that's... So, no, thanks for having me. It's amazing to be here. I'm going to say that the biggest thing that I'm using and I've seen being used all over the world and very little in Romania is the reference check. And you can do reference checks in so many ways. You can just be formal and, just ask, hey, is he a good guy or not? And you get a formal response. Or you are actually putting effort into it and try to understand not only from the references that the respective person is giving you, but to actually put effort into understanding from people he or she worked with and, bosses and all 360, whatever, and to understand the person. And I think it's also very important to understand the other side when you are being asked for references to actually be honest. You are actually helping the guy to get the right job and the right treatment and the right position. So I wouldn't give anything for a good, solid, personal reference check. And the more senior the person is, the more you have to do that personally, not to ask, the executive search company to just do a formal ref check.
Absolutely, and this is something we give a lot of energy to do it yourself. Because
exactly.
You need to feel what's behind the voice. Sometimes people hesitate in saying things which might be negative but are actually just a description of character. Yeah, and something which helps a lot as well is to have to organize a good feel for the discrepancy between self-perception of the person, the subject, and the perception which you got from the reference check. This is a very, very interesting moment of truth. And nobody is perfect, obviously not. And
but we all know that I'm best.
Best, we can agree on.
and we all know that you are best, and each of us is best in our own perception, and everybody else may think the same.
Very true, and that's why you have to understand who you are really, and have your, actually, do your own proper reference checking on yourself. And the more discrepancy you have, that's not a good indicator for good character and the return you get.
Thank you, and if you allow me, I would add, because I'm really glad you brought it up. Reference check is critical, and not just from 1, 2, 3 persons. You have to do interviews with the ones providing the references as well, interviews to pay attention to the cues and details. But what is very important, I believe, is it can be also forensic, for critical roles, forensic analysis, because people got very smart, so they can tell things. But what is a very interesting thing, you know about takers, givers, matchers, I believe. Adam Grant talks about this a lot. And you can find out about takers from peers, not from subordinates, not from bosses. Because this is where you don't have formal authority. It's very interesting. So
yeah, that's also what Radu said. You need to get a reference check with a lower, an N1, a peer, and also a superior, and then you get a full image. And in most cases, negative character traits are more obvious to the N-1s.
And taker behavior goes to peer level, so that's it's an entire world just in references, so thank you. Also, as companies scale and take on external investors, there is always often pressure in prioritizing development pace and returns. So how can leaders, from your experience, maintain their personal values through periods of rapid growth and external pressure? Pressure from institutional investors, or from other type of things, or from market pressure? So,
strange question, because this is a mainly private equity setting, so I have no idea what you mean with pressure or the need to perform. This is all about intrinsic motivation. It's about drive. It's about willfulness to go for it, right? But jokingly, I think under pressure, performance under pressure, you can only maintain it if you have your priorities straight, and if you are authentic to your own, to use the word again, character and persistence. So to me, it's the other way around. So first, make sure you are close to yourself and keep on your character and on your track, and then you can perform under pressure. And I have rarely seen people going astray from their character trait in successful environments, so under pressure and needing to deliver. The dangerous moment happens when there's either decline or refusing or external refusal to be part of something, because we all want to win and we want to belong, right? So critical moments happen when you're not winning or when someone else tells you you no longer belong. For instance, we have probably seen it all happen. A great colleague, and something happens, and then you need to have an exit talk, and then some people get vicious. It goes into the core of a person. It goes into the core of a soul to say somebody you don't belong. And this is when you can make a difference as a leader to guide this person also through these difficult periods.
As they say, ethics shows in difficult times when you are in danger. And I think that all pressure and everything, you can actually, as a CEO, for example, you can actually only perform, as Guy said, if you are true to your beliefs, if you are true to your character, and if you are the right guy, and if you were brought in properly.
Okay, and actually, I was curious if you've had situations, and I'm sure you did, where you had to prioritize one or the other, competence or character. So there were very good, very highly performing people that were less scoring on values. If you had such situations, Or what did you do? Or the other way around, where you had high values but less competent people? How did you prioritize those?
I'm just going to say here, and I'll let you continue. I'm just going to say that when you say character, it's a very interesting word, because you have to define what this means. It's not as easy as he or she is a good guy.
No,
it's a lot of gray nuances, and for different groups of people, for different interests, for different companies, that means different things. Loyalty, for example, can mean so many things, and sometimes loyalty is a bad thing, right? Sometimes loyalty can be, and I had this type of a situation where extreme loyalty was actually detrimental to the entire environment of the company. I guess prioritizing character in the right way, it was always important for me. And I'm true to that saying where they say that, you hire for skills and you fire for attitude. And put it in this context, I'd rather do character rather than competence, So I guess that, yeah.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. To me, character, as I hear from you, Radu, and I'm not surprised, by the way, character or values, it's, again, we're in the private equity environment, so it's a CP. Yep. So it's a condition precedent.
Absolutely.
It's a qualifier. If you don't have it,
yes or no. Yeah.
that's binary. And then you can start adding competence, and only if it's not there in the beginning, it's fine, as long as it's trainable, and if the person is willing to train, which should be because of the values, should be right.
Exactly.
And then the more competence you get, the better, right? So that's maybe not even a linear, maybe it's an exponential relationship between more competence and then result in the end, right? But character values are non-negotiable. Have to be there.
From my experience, what I heard also from you, unless you define them well, this can be very tricky, because some people might see opposite people could see one value, like kindness or compassion, very, very different. That's why defining, I think, it's critical.
And communicating about them in a company, which in the end becomes what is known as corporate culture or your company culture. If you just put a poster on the wall and say, these are our values, of course, everybody will interpret on their own way. And so you have to make them actionable and use them.
A quick question, which is close question, but again, just to fit in the timing, is have you had situations where you had to fire someone with high character, with a very low character, highly performing? So, and how did that impact the company?
I did have this situation, and it impacted amazingly well. Amazingly well.
Kill your darlings, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Jack Welch is very well known for this. He calls it performance versus attitude. The high performance guys or girls and low attitude, in Jack Welch's words, he says, execute them publicly. No? And this has a great impact. Of course, this is US style. In Europe, we tend to do things slightly more subtle. However, me too, I have seen a very, very positive impact on the organization if you get rid of people that attract too much attention, even though they deliver on their own line, on their own performance.
What I've seen actually, and I just realized now, very interesting, is that the high achievers that you are speaking about are actually feeding their achievement from the others' plates. And actually, it just kills everybody else.
A last question I would have. Do you have a specific example with high character leader which was distinguished by amazing values like compassion, forgiveness, integrity, ethics, generosity, transparency that made a tangible difference in your business? Maybe some clear examples.
I do have one amazing example. So, quite a few years ago, like about 20 years ago, whatever, we have this company called ePayment, right? And Naspers wanted to acquire it, but they wanted to acquire it for not what we wanted as an amount of money, right? So what we proposed was to actually split the company in two, which meant to actually sell the same technology to them and still keep it. Now, that's an outrageous thing in the IP world, to sell the technology, the IP, and keep it. The same IP. That's unheard of. And it was possible because the character of the leader and the character of the team, there was trust enough that that's going to work well. And it actually worked amazing, even up to today.
Great.
Now, great example. I have so many examples that I don't know what to choose, and actually you asked me to prepare one and I did, but I'm going to switch to another one. And actually I'm going to turn to you, to this beautiful public. Why are you here? Are you here for a single shot? Are you here because you're bored tonight? You didn't have anything in the calendar and you just wanted to see the view once and then go home? I don't think so. I think you're here one way or another because you want to win and you want to belong and you want to repeat these things and create a kind of upward spiral. And by listening to the audience, to the few conversations and to the panel members and the other speakers, I have heard a few words quite often. Number one is alignment, and another one is return. Now, if you, in your mind, combine these two words, return and alignment, what do you see? Do you see a single shot? Do you see you buy something, build it, sell it, and go away? Or do you see something circular happening? Do you see a kind of a flywheel type of thing? We're talking about recurring value. Why are you investing in tonight? Why are you investing in these relationships? This is because you believe that by doing that, you will have more and more and more probability of winning and belonging. Right? If you disagree, please put up your hand if you want. All right. Yeah, for once I nailed it. So that's proof to me on return on character. Because as I know, the Morphosis team, they have been investing and being true to themselves since the very beginning. And they are open in sharing not only their network, but also their personality. And to me, this has brought a huge wealth of new relationships, things that I can learn so much from a completely different business setting, from a growth environment. And this creates new value. Actually, this event is a proof of the return of character and my biggest example for tonight.
No, that's so well put. That is so well put, yeah.
Indeed. And as we have very little time left, although it's a subject I would discuss forever, I would end up with how the value is lived. And I picked one, Kelly, my business partner, you saw earlier, defined quite well. And I mean here forgiveness. And forgiveness doesn't mean, it's also forgiveness about self, about others, letting go. So it's also very related to another skill called self-regulation. So Kelly says this: forgive the mistake or failure if there was a positive intent, it was in service of the organization or team common goals and objectives, it was within the organization's risk profile. If you say no to any of this, then there is a performance management issue and should be dealt with accordingly. Forget only when the person has demonstrated they've learned from the experience. Demonstration isn't just the person saying they understand what happened. Demonstration is seeing them doing something better, different next time as a result of this experience. So thank you all. Thank you,
Thank you
dear
so much.
gents, and congratulations, Morphosis,
Thank
and
you.
good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Radu. And now I would like to mention this is a very special moment that we're going to have, and I would like to give you a little bit of background while we clean up the stage for some great people that are going to come to the stage in the coming moment. When we were preparing the concept of this event, we had a lot of discussions with Andrei of how can we inspire also the audience. So how can we also, speaking about character, I mean, the awards that we're going to give now is a perfect continuation of the discussion that Guy, Radu, and Radu just had, because we decided not to look for people that you might have seen on the covers of magazines to give inspirational speeches, or the executives or sports people that you might have known from the public sphere. We actually decided to look in line with the motto of how Morphosis was founded, that it's a fund that also invests in people, where the character is important, and where also Morphosis team gets in trenches down with the management. So we decided to do Unsung Hero Awards in order to celebrate the exceptional people within the portfolio companies of Morphosis Capital. I now realize, Andrei, I did a little bit too much of an introduction. So, we're going to introduce company by company exceptional people that you might not see, again, on the covers of magazines, but it doesn't mean that their job is not recognized within these companies and it's not recognized by Morphosis, quite the opposite. So without further ado, I would like to invite on the stage with me David Maskulik from Morphosis team, together with Simona Gemeneanu, who together are going to share with you a few details about the first company that Morphosis invested in, Doc Process, and also provide you some details about the person who's going to receive the award today. David, you can join me on the stage, and Simona, if you can also join us on the stage. Thank you so much.
All right. So as we're waiting for Simona, I was just going to say that as Andrei delivered in his beautiful speech, that today is actually about the unsung heroes. It's not about us as the Morphosis team. Okay, Simona's coming. So I'd like to start with the first portfolio company, Doc Process. Chronologically, we invested in September 2019. It's a leading Romanian company in business ecosystem automation founded by Daniel and Liviu Apolozan. We are a platform that provides document flow automation across the client's entire value chain. We have geographic presence in Romania and France. We serve more than 3,000 clients. We process more than 15 million documents yearly. And we have a coverage over a wide range of industries such as retail, pharma, logistics, and many other. So as Adi was speaking, why did we decide to invest in Doc Process? And there are three reasons. The first one is that Doc Process has a local market leadership and has a state-of-the-art platform. There is an increasing adoption of analytics solutions and emerging document digitalization trend. And there's an existing white space in selected verticals, and there's a growth of the e-invoicing market. right from the onset, our common goals were well defined. We had to grow the client base by penetrating new verticals. We had to expand internationally in Western Europe, and we had to extend our product offering. Even from day one, we have been committed to invest in a dedicated sales team to further consolidate the local leadership in the market that we have. We would like to thank the whole Doc Process team for their continued effort, and our special recognition goes to Camelia Dragomir, whose contribution as an operations manager have been crucial to our success as a champion in the local market. A round of applause for Camelia.
Mă numesc Camelia Dragomir, ocup poziția de Operations Manager în cadrul companiei Doc Process. Am venit la Doc Process în februarie 2013. La început am avut emoții foarte mari din cauza faptului că eu nu mai lucrasem într-o companie de IT. Am avut însă un foarte mare noroc pentru că proiectul pe care am lucrat prima oară a fost un proiect nou-nouț, iar acest lucru mi-a creat un context favorabil pentru a mă adapta mai rapid. Tocmai atunci se lansa platforma de transfer documente electronice, care a devenit core business-ul Doc Process, care apoi s-a dezvoltat foarte mult. Volumul de muncă a început să crească foarte mult și a devenit evident faptul că trebuia să ne mărim echipele. Am evoluat în timp de 11 ani, de la eu singură la eu cu încă 14 oameni cu responsabilități diverse. Mi s-a părut foarte, foarte dificilă tranziția spre managementul unei echipe. Eu m-am ghindat tot timpul, cum simțeam eu că trebuie să se întâmple lucrurile, fiind pusă în postura de a lua decizii, iar eu care mă potrivesc mănușă cu situația asta în care nu ai proceduri corporatiste, în care până la Dumnezeu te mănâncă sfinții, mă potrivesc foarte bine. Mergeam direct la sursă și ceream îndrumare, mi-a plăcut lucrul ăsta foarte, foarte tare. Nu știu cât de mult eu am setat trendul ăsta, să poți să discuți liber și tranșant lucrurile și să mergi acolo unde știi sigur că este persoana care îți poate rezolva situația. Cât și din partea top managementului a fost deschiderea asta și am fost încurajați din punctul ăsta de vedere. Eu am avut o evoluție foarte bună și constantă la Doc Process, dar succesul proiectelor pe care le-am gestionat este suma eforturilor tuturor membrilor echipei. Sunt, cred că, cunoscută în companie din punctul ăsta de vedere, ca fiind o persoană foarte atașată de echipă și care îi determină și motivează și să muncească, să mergem să ne atingem obiectivele, dar cumva lucrurile să fie fair și pentru ei și să vină de drag la birou. Având în vedere domeniul în care lucrăm, compania este într-o continuă dezvoltare. Proiectul pentru care am fost și adusă, de exemplu, la momentul respectiv era considerat un proiect complex. Acum nu l-aș mai considera asta. Atât de multe s-au schimbat între timp lucrurile și atât de complicate au devenit. Compania a trebuit să se adapteze. În momentul acesta noi avem o echipă și în Franța. Deocamdată suntem acolo unde trebuie, consider eu.
Invite Camelia Dragomir on stage. Thank you so much, Camelia. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you say a few words?
Yeah. Hi, thank you. I think I said plenty of things during this video. I just want to thank Morphosis Capital, and I want to thank also Doc Process for trusting me to be here. I'm very honored. And humbled, and I can't believe that I'm actually here standing in front of you tonight. It's been a wonderful 11 years together with my team. We've made some efforts, we have amazing successes, and I'm hoping that the future will hold the same good surprises for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We now continue. The next company we're going to award and recognize tonight is EMI. And I would like to invite on the stage with me Dragalina Dragan, who's going to introduce the company, the investment philosophy, and also our unsung hero, as well as after Simona again to handle in the award. Please, Dragalina.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to present EMI, a leading European player in industrial access systems. For strategic acquisitions in Belgium and Romania, EMI Group now operates 3 state-of-the-art facilities and has established a robust service presence in Romania, Slovakia, and Belgium. Why invest in this, you might be thinking? So first of all, EMI is led by a strong founder with a clear vision for consolidating the group. Second, the fragmented market offers significant opportunities for a buy and build strategy. And last but not least, EMI's focus on recurring business and customer-centric end-to-end solutions makes it resilient and a scalable operation. From the start, our joint vision for EMI was to set up a decentralized model within the group, providing an agile platform where founders can reach their full potential. Finally, what truly sets EMI apart is its unique culture, a fusion of rigor and entrepreneurship. This culture is driven not only by a strong founder, but also by an exceptional team. And a special recognition goes to Ștefan Fundanu, who has been here with EMI since its early days. Congratulations to the entire team and to Mr. Fundanu.
Sunt Ștefan Fundeanu, sunt angajat la compania EMI din 2008, într-un departament tehnic, mă ocup de mentenanță și proiecte mici și mijlocii. La compania EMI mi s-a propus un proiect de fapt, a zis vino să creăm un departament de service. Mi s-a propus funcția în EMI de către un director care nu mai e. Și mă zice, uite, trebuie să ai și o întâlnire cu Jerome. Uite, e patronul, trebuie să știe despre oameni, să vadă. Nu? Am fost surprins că a vrut să vină la mine în birou. Și m-a întrebat și cum văd lucrurile. Pe mine m-a impresionat chiar gestul ăsta. EMI atunci se ocupa numai de montaj, echipamente noi și parte de mentenanță, dar departamentul de mentenanță era la început. La compania EMI lucrez mai mult cu oameni decât cu echipament. La echipament e ușor. Când a lucrat cu oamenii în fiecare zi e altceva. Trebuie să păstrezi echilibru între echipe, oamenii sunt diferiți. Noi trebuie să găsim soluția ideală ca pentru un anumit contract să găsim oamenii potriviți care să-l ducă la bun sfârșit. Partea cu tineretul e destul de dificil. Nu vrea nimeni să-și asume responsabilitatea să facă un lucru. Eu le spun, începeți o activitate și să-mi spuneți voi, pe parcurs, ce vreți să faceți sau ce vreți să învățați mai mult. Când vedeam că are potențial cineva și se blochează undeva, vă spun sincer, mă vedeam pe mine. Și zic, de ce nu ai curaj să mergi mai în față? Am trecut peste multe provocări și încă în fiecare zi asta, dar cu asta m-am obișnuit. A fost un proiect, am ținut foarte mult la el și care am muncit foarte mult la el. A fost Stadionul Național. Lucram pe niște planuri foarte mari, trebuia să lucrez, vă spun, puneam pe jos. Și stăteam în genunchi cu lupa ca să trec. Când mă apropiam iarna de Stadionul Național, nu mă gândeam la cât îmi place mie tehnica. La -3 era apa până la genunchi. Îmi place ceea ce fac aici. Pentru mine asta mi-e de ajuns. Mă bucură că nu am stagnat și am fost, martor. Am văzut că lucrurile în companie se mișcă. Și an de an am văzut că se vrea, adică se face ceea ce trebuie. Pentru mine a contat foarte mult.
Round of applause for Ștefan. Thank you so much. Ștefan, dacă poți să ne spui niște cuvinte, mersi mult pentru tot ce faci, în românește.
Bună seara, o să vorbesc în românește, nu vorbesc prea bine de engleză. Sunt onorat pentru acest premiu, nu mă așteptam. A fost o surpriză pentru mine să aflu de la conducerea firmei că sunt nominalizat pentru acest premiu. Nu m-am pregătit pentru așa ceva. În fiecare zi pe lângă ceea ce trebuie să fac, am dorit să învăț colegii noi, am vrut să fim o echipă, ca împreună să lucrăm și să avem rezultate foarte bune. Nu sunt cel mai bun din firmă, nu sunt cel mai bun din țară, sunt un om care își dorește, și vă spun, își dorește să-și facă treaba. Vă mulțumesc mult pentru încredere și pentru premiu.
Vă mulțumim frumos. I promise you by the end of tonight there will not be a dry eye in the room. We have seen those videos, but they still keep on touching us very much as we play them out. Now we are going to move to Medima, and I would like to invite on the stage with me Adrian Neta and Gabriela Dumitru, who are going to present our next awardee.
Thank you, Zuzana. It's my pleasure to introduce Medima, probably the fastest growing healthcare company at this moment in Romania. That managed to grow from just 2 clinics in 2020 when we invested to now operating 22 medical imaging clinics across 17 cities in Romania. We invested in a company since it was a fragmented industry at that moment. Very attractive financials at clinic level, and since most of the patients are oncological patients, it also has a very, very important impact on humans' health and society. But most importantly, we decided to invest because we managed to bring together 2 important people in this business. Probably the most reputable doctor in radiology in Romania, Dr. Professor Gheorghiana, which had a critical role in growing the medical team of Medima, and a very ambitious CEO, Vlad Ardeleanu, managed to build a very strong management team, and I could even say an expansion machine that now can open 7-8 clinics per year, which is more than any competitor has ever done in Romania in this sector. And we also have here one of the persons who had a considerable impact on the development of Medima, Raluca Izdrailă, who is Senior Account Manager in Medima. I want to congratulate Raluca, Vlad, and Professor Iana for all these impressive achievements, and the entire team at Medima.
Sunt Raluca Izdrailă, sunt Senior Key Account Manager în cadrul companiei Medima, începând cu luna mai 2021. În momentul în care mi s-a evit oportunitatea de a face parte din echipa Medima, am simțit că acolo îmi este locul. Era vorba de o clinică medicală care oferă servicii de imagistică de înaltă calitate, atât din punctul de vedere al aparatelor, cât și al interpretării. Toate acestea venind cu precădere în sprijinul pacienților oncologici. Am terminat dreptul. Am master în criminalistică. Pot să asamblez, să dezasamblez un pistol. N-are nicio legătură cu ceea ce fac în momentul de față, dar totdeauna viața te surprinde. Da, sunt un liant între medicul trimițător și pacient și clinică. Consider că pe mine mă ajută foarte mult în munca de zi cu zi empatia pe care o am față de pacienți, trecând și eu printr-o experiență personală care a lăsat urmări, cred că pot să înțeleg mult mai bine drama prin care trece pacientul. Și tocmai de aceea abordarea mea este una serioasă, profesionistă, dar și empatică vis-a-vis de pacient. Pentru mine, pacientul primează. Cred că cea mai mare provocare în fiecare zi este interacțiunea cu pacientul oncologic, pentru că vorbim despre un pacient fragil și consider totodată că aceasta este și cea mai mare satisfacție pe care o am, pentru că, de exemplu, sunt pacienți pe care i-am întâlnit la debutul bolii, da? Și care în continuare mă sună și după ani de zile sunt supraviețuitori. Au învins boala și continuă să se monitorizeze. Sau am iarăși o deosebită satisfacție când povestim cu ei reușesc să le aduc un zâmbet pe buze sau să le ofer un sprijin de care au nevoie. Da, deci este totodată și o provocare și o satisfacție. Consider că valorile promovate de Medima sunt valorile mele. Foarte mult contează să fii onest, să-ți respecti promisiunile și să fii serios. Și pentru aceste motive, cred că ne-am câștigat un renume. Medima este într-o continuă dezvoltare, va continua să se dezvolte deschis în clinici, abordând noi servicii, iar eu sper să-i fiu alături în drumul acesta lung pe care îl are și să mă adaptez din mers la toate provocările noi care vor veni.
Raluca, it is my pleasure to invite you on stage.
Mulțumesc foarte mult. Mă simt extrem de onorată pentru faptul că am fost aleasă și creditată și validată. Înseamnă enorm de mult pentru mine. Mulțumesc Morphosis, mulțumesc pentru o seară extraordinară și un eveniment deosebit și creator de amintiri frumoase. Mulțumesc colegilor mei din Medima care au avut încredere în mine și care mi-au făcut onoarea de a fi astăzi aici în fața dumneavoastră. Mulțumesc!
Thank you very much. We stay in the medical field and now we are going to present Kronos. I would like to invite Dragalina again together with Andrei who will be awarding the trophy. Dragalina, please.
Now, allow me to present Kronos Med, the leading Romanian provider of aesthetic and regenerative medicine. With a national network of premium clinics, Kronos Med offers a one-stop shop for innovative, high-quality aesthetic procedures and life extension solutions. Founded by Dr. Constantin Stan, a true pioneer in aesthetic medicine, we recognize Kronos Med as a patient-focused, medically driven business. The company's approach ensures that most patients are guided by a strong medical team of professionals all dedicated to delivering the best treatment options. From day one, our joint vision for Kronos Med was to drive national expansion and solidify its position as the Romanian leader in aesthetic medicine. And since Morphosis investment, Kronos Med has doubled its network, and now it operates 8 clinics across 6 major cities. Led by a visionary founder, Dr. Constantin Stan, Kronos Med culture is powered by an outstanding team, and a special recognition goes to Crina Petan, the manager of the Timișoara Clinic, whose contributions have been key to Kronos' success.
Sunt Crina Petean, Popa, manager Kronos Timișoara și medic specialist dermatolog totodată în această clinică. Proiectul Kronos este un proiect în care eu am crezut. Valorile Kronos, din punctul meu de vedere, sunt niște valori sănătoase. Și domnul doctor Stan, în toată cariera dânsului, asta a făcut, a fost aproape de pacienți. Am ajuns în această poveste datorită colegei mele, dr. Elena Popa, care este unul din medicii care lucrează în clinica de la Timișoara, este doctor driver. Dânsa m-a recomandat domnului doctor și apoi domnul doctor a ales ca eu să rămân în poziția de manager acolo. Și a fost o provocare, au fost multe lucruri care nu se văd, care s-au întâmplat în fiecare zi. Domnul doctor Stan m-a sunat într-o dimineață, mi-a spus: atenție, nu toți cei cu care tu vorbești știu lucrurile pe care tu le știi. A fost un sfat. Mi-amintesc de multe ori de ceea ce mi-a spus doctorul și legat de comunicare este foarte important să știi să comunici, să poți să comunici și să accepți că nu ai întotdeauna dreptate. În echipa noastră, în echipa de la Timișoara mă refer, regula este în felul următor. Competența face regula, de fapt. Și de-abia după aceea cine este superiorul. Sunt momente când, într-adevăr, trebuie să facă și ceea ce spun eu, dar comunicarea este reală în clinica la Timișoara și toată lumea din clinica de la Timișoara a înțeles un lucru. Dacă la sfârșitul zilei clinicii este bine, tuturor ne va fi bine. Dacă la sfârșitul lunii clinicii îi va fi bine, noi toți vom avea o viață ușoară. Cronos este un brand, pentru că atunci când te duci la Cronos, tu ai garanția că ești tratat corect, ești evaluat corect. În clinica de la Timișoara, clinica face estetică, multă estetică, dar în același timp face și patologie. Pentru că pacientul îl tratezi estetic abia după ce este sănătos. Dar acesta este și un principiu al domnului doctor Stan, pentru că dânsul are protocoale combinate pe partea de dermatologie, de țesut, de structură. Îmi doresc să rămân alături de echipa de la Timișoara, de colegii din echipa extinsă. Cred în succesul acestui proiect și din acest motiv mă și văd în viitor în acest proiect. Mie personal îmi aduce satisfacția lucrului bine făcut și am încă dorința de a fi alături de această echipă, de a face lucrurile să meargă și să fie un succes în adevăratul sens al cuvântului.
On Crina's behalf, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, she couldn't get on time to Bucharest from Timișoara, I invite on stage Bogdan Druga, the CEO of Kronos, to accept the award. And I want to thank Bogdan, who had to find some last-minute babysitting solutions to be with us tonight. Bogdan. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Morphosis team, for the great event and putting all together here, because for me it's very important. The first time when we're in this big crowd. Second, okay, obviously I'm not the hero, so okay, I'm just taking the prize. On behalf of Dr. Stan and Kronos, I am extremely happy to take this prize, and Crina is one of the people from this team. So I appraise and I value every single people of every single person from this team. Today is about Crina, tomorrow we will see, but the team is very important and crucial for Kronos' future. Thank you very much, and wish you a nice.
Thank you very much. We are now going to move to Stay Fit Gym, and I would like to invite again Adrian and Dragos, who will be handling the award. Please, Adi, go ahead.
Hi again. I'm really excited on this one to introduce Stay Fit Gym, a fitness operator that has grown with an impressive speed in the past almost 3 years since we invested in the company. The business has grown from only 7 gyms in Bucharest to now operating 42 gyms across 18 cities in Romania. And I could even say by the end of next year we'll have 70 gyms, which means a 10-fold increase in just 4 years. There are several reasons we decided to invest in the company. which ticked a lot of boxes of those 6 criteria I was presenting earlier. It was a very fragmented market at that moment, very highly scalable business, very good operating margin, a very good ramp up of each clinic, of each gym, sorry. That's what happens when you work in Medima and stay fit at the same time. But most importantly, I think the best bet we've made by far is the investment in the 3 founders, Alex, Marius, and Laur, who probably worked more than 15 hours each day in the past 3 years to achieve this performance. A special thank you goes also to Sânziana Damian, which made a great contribution of training new employees of the company. So I want to thank all the team in Stay Fit. Thank you, Sânziana, and thank you for the founders for this impressive achievement.
Numele meu este Sânziana Damian, am funcția de coordonator la sala Stay Fit Gym Liberty. Am venit în Stay Fit în 2015, în ianuarie. Fiind studentă, îmi căutam un job pe weekend. M-am dus pe postul de recepție. La început mi-aduc aminte că mi-era rușine să răspund la telefon, că eu sunt moldoveancă și aveam un accent destul de puternic pe atunci. Eu tot timpul am fost mai băiețoasă și de asta probabil m-am și adaptat atât de ușor și m-am integrat atât de ușor. Mi-a plăcut să mă implic. Pentru mine nu a contat. Nu știu, dacă nu am avut femeie la curățenie și într-o zi era nevoie să mă duc să schimb saci de gunoi sau altceva, o făceam. Cea mai mare provocare a mea a fost locația din Liberty. Era o sală preluată, o sală nouă, o sală destul de dificilă din cauza zonei. Și eu eram aia care mă zbăteam. Eu comentam tot timpul, când era un client mai dificil, așa, mie nu mi-era teamă. Eu mă duceam și vorbeam cu el. Pentru că dacă nu comunici cu oamenii și le transmiți care sunt regulile și tot ce este în locația aia, nu poți să faci nimic. Și echipa, pentru că dacă nu ai echipă care să te înțelegi, de unul singur n-ai cum să faci toate lucrurile astea, este foarte dificil. Cea mai mare satisfacție în momentul de față este aceea când cei din conducere m-au trimis să fac ceea ce îmi place, practic. Să pot să trăiesc cu oamenii din locațiile noi, cum să vândă un abonament, cum să facă un abonament, cum să vorbească cu clienții în primul rând. Pentru mine a fost o satisfacție foarte mare. Din atâția oameni și din o echipă foarte mare, eu să fiu aleasă, pentru mine chiar a contat și am realizat că nu am muncit atâția ani la ei degeaba. La Stay Fit îmi plac șefii, în primul rând, băieții, așa cum le spunem noi. Tot timpul au fost niște lideri și tot timpul ne-au dat mână liberă să facem ce credem noi că e ok pentru sală. Eu, fiind de atâția ani în echipă, am văzut creșterea. De fapt, am crescut toți. Eu odată cu ei și ei cu mine și locațiile. Să rămână mereu așa lideri, nu șefi. Pentru că asta, cel puțin pe mine, m-a ajutat foarte mult.
Felicitări, Sânziana, și mulțumim mult pentru tot.
Am emoții acum că m-am văzut. Vreau să mulțumesc conducerii, familiei Stay Fit, băieților, Alex, Marius și Laur. Mulțumesc pentru încrederea acordată, mulțumesc că am învățat foarte multe de la ei în acești ani și mulțumesc pentru tot sprijinul acordat.
And we have It's been a long evening, apologies, but we got to the last but not least, Mark Twain International School, the latest investment of Morphosis Capital, and I would like to invite again David as well as Dragos, who are going to present the winner of the final award for tonight.
So, as usually the first one becomes the last ones. Let's start with the first investment in Morphosis Capital Fund 2, Mark Twain. So, Dan Kovevlășceanu, and they operate 2 campuses in Bucharest. The school has a global mission, and it's a provider of national and international baccalaureate education. To continue its growth trajectory. There's a lot of opportunity in the consolidation of the market because there are no regional or global players, and obviously there is at the European level. Right from the beginning, the goal was to create a national platform, what we call positive impact on their communities. Our mission to provide high-quality education continues, and we have already signed to build 2 new campuses, one in Cosmopolis and one in the north of Bucharest, 8,000 and 15,000 square meters recently. So for those who have children here or willing to have children, we are waiting for you at Mark Twain. At Mark Twain, the focus is on a student-centric education with an open-minded attitude. The children joining the Mark Twain family will be part of a welcoming and collaborative community, connecting both students, teachers, and ultimately parents. Aside from the lovely professors and the academic directors that we have here in the crowd, the admin staff also plays an essential role in the operation of Mark Twain. Their interactions with the children help build trust. They foster a sense of comfort and belonging. These unsung heroes are often the backbone of the school's operation, and they provide emotional support for the kids. One such dedicated person is Mrs. Veronica Cimpoca, who has been with the school for more than 20 years and is always offering us a warm smile and encouragement. So a round of applause to her.
Mă numesc Veronica Cimpoca și lucrez în cadrul Mark Twain International School de 24 de ani. Sunt secretara campusului junior și totodată coordonatorul programului extins pentru copii. Am început ca secretară în front office. Fiind un job nou, am fost foarte încântată să intru în această lume a copiilor. De exemplu, în ziua în care eu am venit, am avut prezentarea grădiniței și a școlii, a unei familii cu o fetiță foarte drăguță, care a doua zi a venit să se înscrie și atunci mi-a dat foarte mult avânt. Începând să creștem, am avut idei care, într-adevăr, s-au pliat pe ceea ce își doreau managerii mei și asta m-a făcut, mi-a dat și mai multă încredere să rămân aici și chiar să mă bucur că am atâția ani și privesc cu mândrie în urmă prin tot ceea ce am realizat. Toată lumea își aduce aminte de diverse situații, diverse provocări și evenimente în care chiar ne jucăm uitând că sunt mai mare, dar bucuria aceasta de a mă manifesta din partea creativă, care eu nu am știut-o de-a lungul timpului, fiind în domeniul bancar, cifre și atât, aici am descoperit mai multe laturi ale mele și satisfacția de a le pune în aplicare. Și cu bucurie către colegi, către manageri, că am reușit. În anul 2000, când am venit, grădinița era și cred că atunci au început cu școala primară. Părinții și-au dorit să rămână copiii în continuare și atunci s-au făcut toate demersurile pentru a crește și crescând și numărul de copii, așa am ajuns cu clasele până la a 12-a și cu rezultate foarte bune de-a lungul timpului. Implicarea tuturor și devotamentul a fost un punct forte al nostru pentru a putea să mergem mai departe.
Bună seara! Sunt foarte emoționată și totodată bucuroasă și onorată că am primit acest premiu. Mă simt ca la Oscar. Emoțiile sunt de plină. Mulțumesc Morphosis, mulțumesc domnului Andrei Gemeneanu, doamnei Simona Gemeneanu, mulțumesc Martin, mulțumesc doamnei Anca Macovei, mulțumesc domnului Dan Macovei Blășceanu, mulțumesc echipei Martin și colegilor care m-au însoțit în seara aceasta și încă o dată mulțumesc pentru acest premiu și sunt onorată, în afară de primirea premiului și faptul că lucrez de atâția ani în această minunată școală care avem aici în sală și o fostă eleva noastră care ne-am revăzut după atâta timp. Emoțiile, cred că își spun cuvântul. Mulțumesc mult! Mulțumesc tuturor!
Thank you very much. And now for the closing remarks, I would like to invite Andrei to the stage together with the team to invite everybody for the party, basically.
I'm much better at this than anything else. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I won't stand any longer between you and the open bar. I'm going to do something which wasn't part of the script, just to annoy my team consistently as I do. So I kindly want to get the Morphosis team on stage next to me for a group picture. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. I think it's been a stimulating evening. It certainly has been for me. I cry very easily, by the way, as a personal confession. And I got teary several times during the Unsung Award ceremony. Thank you, and let's continue the networking and the partying. And indeed, we are welcoming tonight in the team 3 future members of the Morphosis investment team, Teodora, Cezar, and Geo. They are only joining us in a few weeks, but it's the first time that we are together. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being part of the journey.